course.
So we're in. Okay, we are on. Hey guys.
What's
I think
up,
I got it
guys?
to work. So I stuffed this in the corner, and this is Stop the FOMO with my good friend Brian, Tech Therapy. This time I'm going to intro you properly, Brian. I get
Well,
so
hold on.
excited
I
when
don't
I'm
see any.
in.
I don't see the comments. Are we
Oh,
really
the
in?
comments is here. So let's first just check everyone's audio. Can you hear us, everybody? And I'm not going to identify the TVs. I think it's kind of obvious because they're two different TV technologies. You can see that the white points are slightly different. So maybe that's a dead giveaway, right? But still, I'm going to try.
Oh, there
And
we go. So
here
I
we
see
go.
one comment. That's the one comment that's there.
Yeah, it should be starting to pop up real quick. So
Okay.
let me make sure here.
What's up, Scott?
Hey, here we go. Let me make sure
It's
I
so
adjust everything here.
it's so
So
funny. The
the
quality of the
comments.
image is better, but like the comments are like Apple 2E. they're
What was
like
that?
they're like very generic. The comments come up as like alien, like old school text. Wow.
Okay,
Okay.
so because the white points are so different, right? I tried to adjust it. I'm just going to get the luminance right. Let's not
Yeah.
attempt to do any kind of color comparisons, guys. So what we'll do is, here they are. So on the top left
Hold
is
on.
the S95C. In the middle is the U8H on top. The QN95C is on the bottom, below the U8H, and the G3 is on the far right. So what I'm going to tell you guys off the bat is this U8H is so bright. Still, it's unbelievable. But the Q95C is quite amazing in the way this year it's controlling the blooming. I mean, that 1300 dimming zones makes a huge difference. So for everyone that doesn't know the improvements, the Samsung Q95C this year is using the backlight panel of the QN900C, which means it's getting the full 1344 dimming zones that you get on the QN900C, plus all the additional processing that involves, right? Previous years, the 8K TVs from Samsung had the exclusive higher dimming zone backlight system, and the 4K systems were left with significantly less, half or even less than half. Like the Q90T was like a quarter, right? So this year, they're giving the Q95C the treatment, the good treatment, and it shows. But as you can see in scenes like this, it's not about the brightness on the Q95C this year. It's about trying to make it as OLED as possible and as bright as possible without, well, what OLED cannot do, the Q95C will try to get brighter. We'll see if it does. And more importantly, for those who are desperately afraid of burn-in, it's supposed to not happen with a non-OLED. But what are your thoughts about burn-in, Brian? Because this is something that you get a lot of tech therapy questions where people go up to you and say, hey, should I get an OLED? I mean, is burn-in a thing? We just saw the ratings, the R-tings,
Yeah.
longevity. I mean, is burn-in, what are your thoughts on burn-in?
So quickly, I can't see the TVs. All I see is you.
I'm sorry?
I only see you. I don't even see the TVs. So, can you let me see what they
I'm
see?
trying
Because
to. I don't know. Okay, does everyone see the TV?
I can see it online. I can see it here,
Okay, so
but
you know what? I'm gonna have to figure this out later. I have no idea how
I'm
to
like,
get
wow,
my
you
guest.
you look great. But I guess like it's guys, it's gonna look rude because I'll be looking down at the phone to be able to actually see what I'm seeing. So as far as burn-in being a fear, no, it's not even a fear with QD OLED. Ratings test is awesome, but it is an extreme test. I mean, it is there to create burn-in. So unless you watch TV 15 hours a day on something like really dark reds, like Fox or CNN or whatever, you're not going to have that issue. But they've even said we're doing this to burn them in.
Hmm.
As we know with LG, the screen does dim after a certain period of time. They have safeguards in place, but it wouldn't stop me from getting a QD OLED, not even a little bit. Not even. So I mean, I love that Ratings did it because I think it's great work they're doing, but it's a non-issue still for me. But the thing is, we just got done talking about burn-in like a year ago. Now it's like, oh, by the way, I'm scared to death. I'm going with a Vizio LED. So
Right.
all right.
So this,
So what I'm seeing on
yes,
screen. Um, well, the U8H is very bright, huh?
that's the one on top. UH is a touch brighter. I mean, in some scenes, it just, we're gonna go through some movie scenes after we kind of, because I'm warming up my exposure on my camera. I'm using the Sony A7 IV. And some scenes, I'm trying to make sure I have a range of the right exposure. I'm exposing for the brightest TV, which would be the U8H, slightly brighter than the QN95C. Like this one, they'll all look very similar. If it looks, but the thing is this, the U8H may be brighter, but it's clipping detail. So you get the U8H for absolute brightness, but you are not going to get that detail like you get in the QN95C. So this scene right here is a perfect example where that brightest part of that cloud right in the center, I got no detail on this U8H, and let me pause it real quick, and I'll show you. I'm going to close in real quick on that.
All right, quickly. What's up, David Weiland? What's up, Michael? What's up, Biohazard? Tristan, what's happening, brother? Hey, Craig. What's up, I definitely did get some sun on vacation. I got torched, actually. So it's going to look rude because I have to look down at my phone to read the comments.
So, yeah, I know, right? So if you guys look at the center of that cloud, on the other clouds, I don't know if you see this on YouTube, right? There's actually details, right? Subtle gradients of that cloud. And this is one of our audience asked, hey, what's clipping? That white cloud is clipping. The U8H, technically it is brighter than the other three, but in return for that brightness, and this is a 2000 nit version of this scene, you lose everything within that bright area, right? So you guys have to understand that U8H is brute forcing the HDR impact. Now everything else looks great though. I mean, the rest of the scene looks pretty good, but U8H right there, it doesn't, you cannot, this is all processing. There isn't a tone mapping option that will give it back. And if you do get it, all the detail back, it's going to be a lot less bright. So this is a good example why when people get the U8H, everything looks phenomenal, but unless you have a TV next to it, you don't know if it's supposed to clip like that or not. So that's just something that I'll show you guys when we go through different scenes, how bright the U8H can get, but then how you could also lose a little bit of that. But let me ask you, Brian, when you have like a scene with HDR impact, a punch in the face, and you lose a little detail, but you get the brightness that's a bit more bright than the rest of the other TVs, does it matter that you lose a little detail in that explosion?
It doesn't, only because it's so quick. I would say where it does work against us is in some of the gaming scenes that you and I did with Horizon Zero Dawn. We were in the clouds. Remember, we were seeing that on the S95C, it was a bit too bright, and same with the G3. So I think in movie content, it'd be a non-issue, but I think in gaming, where you're going to pan around, it's probably a problem. But then again, the local dimming is not quite as good in gaming anyway, so I wonder if it's a wash.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's see if I can find our stream up here.
So, so Loki is saying, wait a minute, this looks kind of yellow, right? And the issue is because this is kind of like filmmaker mode. It's a touch yellow. I mean, I could cool it down, but this is kind of like a compromise on the other TVs, so to speak. So, you know, and yes, the ISO is set low for the other scene. Let me turn it back up for you guys.
All right, hold on. Okay. So quickly, guys, before FOMO comes back, what I think is interesting about quickly, FOMO, do you want to share our story with the 900C
Yeah, go for it, because a
to
lot of them
give
may
some
not have
context?
caught that long stream.
Oh, yeah, because that was actually during the stream. So, guys, we had done a quick comparison of the 900C, which is the 8K Samsung, against the S95C. And what I want to know by FOMO's comparison with the QN95 is that the 900C is so good at keeping blooming to a minimum. But what we saw it do is that anytime the challenging or screen was challenged, it dimmed. So it became almost like an IPS gray to keep the blooming from happening. And what I mean by that is the S95C ends up being bright in every single shot. So even though the 900C is probably 3,000 nits, it wasn't brighter in any of the scenes. So we were in, I think we were in cinema, but what I want to see from this FOMO is when a black screen comes up, are we going to see that dimming and how they handle it? So because it really made it look pretty gray when
Oh, wait,
anything
can you
challenging
one
came on screen.
second? Let me adjust the volume, making sure that you can hear us all. How's our volume now? Just making sure that the audio is good. Because I think they were saying that they were unable to hear you or me, so I'm making sure. Can you guys hear us now? Just double checking the volume.
Mic check, mic check.
Mic
I
check.
wish I could see the screen. There's no way I can see the TVs on the screen while you're talking?
You know
How
what?
can
I don't even know what the guests see, unfortunately. So I assume these
So
folks.
the guests are seeing you and me in the corner, and then four TVs. I see me in the corner, and I see you.
How weird.
So
Yeah.
and then when I swap camera for program feed, hold on, maybe that's what I gotta do.
Yeah. Try program feed.
Now I see me, and then you. It's small. I don't want to see myself. I'm burning alive out
Oh,
here.
goodness.
All right, so I guess we'll have to do it this way. All right. Um,
My volume's slightly lower. Yeah. Keep on
you said
talking. I'll increase my
you're
volume.
still low.
Okay. Hopefully that's better. And I'll increase the gain on my microphone. And this time I have the high-end microphone, so it should be
Oh,
better.
nice. Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just had like a really loud snow sound. All right, that was weird. All right, let's get the game going. So back to
Okay.
what you were saying, Fomo, quickly before we go into the comparison.
Yep.
Can you elaborate a little bit on what you saw that day from the 900C? And from what you've seen in this few minutes, is the QN95 doing the same thing?
So without the 900C next to the 95C, I'm using the S95C as a proxy between the two. And I have to say that just watching movies and stuff, it feels like the Q95C. So here's what I noticed about the Q900C. It actually had better in the gaming. It had better shadow detail than the S95C. It had better shadow gradients. I felt like it had the better processor. In some of the gaming scenes that we did, I go, wait a minute, there's a lot of subtle gradients in some of those scenes that the S95C didn't have. But on the other hand, the S95C had brighter specular highlights more often than not, which was amazing because that's what the Q900C is supposed to do. So the QN95 or the Q900C and the S95C, it felt like the Q900C had the better processor. I haven't been able to compare that today yet, so I'm going to have to dive into that, but I can tell you that the QN95C is an improvement over the Q90C in terms of black levels for sure, but specular highlights are still not there, which isn't a surprise, but I think it's more relevant to compare it to U8H, and I think that's something that you guys will see. We're going to run through real movies. So I set up my Kaleidescape so that I only shoot 5-second segments of each scene. Hopefully it doesn't get us shut down. So as soon as, I know you're laughing, right? Guys, anything could happen. So and I'm risking it. I think there's at least 4 movies we're going to run through, but we'll see what happens. So where were
But
your observations?
well, I can tell you from the image, at least, that's different than a 900C, is that clearly the U8H and the QN95C are brighter, where the 900C, in comparison to the S95C, was darker. So I think the 900C needs a few updates. We'll go back and check it out, but
Oh
from
yeah,
what I can see,
thank you. It actually, it arrived with a 23 firmware and it asked if I wanted to update. So I wanted to see what it looked like before the update. And then after we run some of the movies, I'm going to update it to see what happens.
oh, dude, you're freaking live without a net, my boy. Oh,
I know, that's my job, right?
you're
Now,
a
I'll
true
tell you,
performer.
in gaming, like I was just playing with Halo Infinite. It looks fine in gaming. It didn't look like the local dimming shut down at all in regular game mode. Now, I know with VRR activated, that may happen, but just in regular 4K 60 in game mode, it looked great. So, but what were your observations on the 100C? Well, I switch over to a bunch of movies and we'll see what happens.
Well, with the 900C, I would tell you guys see us do comparisons all the time. It's amazing how these TVs look by themselves. I didn't see any issues with the 900C at all, except for filmmaker mode was broken on my sample. But then once it was next to the Q or the S95C, it was, and that was in a lot of gaming. I'll clarify that it was brighter. The S95C was actually brighter in every scene, not perceived brightness. It was actually brighter. So the 900C was clearly dimming itself to keep blooming to a minimum, which is what I'd rather just give me the blooming and give me the brightness. All right, what do we
So,
got?
so which would you get given all of
Um,
that?
out of well, it took the 900C off the table for me. I am interested in the 85-inch QN95C or the 83-inch G3. out of my TVs right at this moment.
So I'm going to run each scene 3 times. The first time, so I can see how my exposure is, and I make the adjustments for the next 2 times, right? So, all right, so this is a great example of, so I'm going to adjust our exposure. You guys see this better? 1 second here. All right. So as you can see, the Q95C looks just like the OLEDs when it comes to this brightness detail, which is pretty cool. But we'll run it through right now. All of them are set to their filmmaker mode, static on all of them. The U8H is in its most accurate mode. The U8H is actually calibrated. It was calibrated by Sammy. I haven't made any changes to that. And so they're all very similar. And if anything, this is kind of like a testament to the U8H for $1,000. But the goal is to see if the Q95C can match OLED's performance. And in impactful scenes like this, I don't see blooming on the TVs. Like, oh, wow, I see lifted blacks. I mean, it just looks pretty good, not as bright as the U8H, but then the fine details that you want an OLED for, the Q95C, in this scene, it just matches it. I was like, that's really nice.
I guess the only problem I'd have, FOMO, is I'd expect the specular highlights on the QN95C to be much brighter. Oh no, and in that scene right there, I know
If you
I'm
turn it
lagging.
up,
I'm actually behind
yeah,
you guys.
yeah. Let me turn it up.
No, I can't see anything. Well, the black levels is good. Every TV is black. What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Real quick, we have 211 in the chat. Please hit like, and we're using a different streaming service now, so we're giving you better picture quality, but we're struggling with the comments and everything.
Okay, and
Go ahead.
I wanted to turn this one up, the exposure, so you guys could see that the Q95C has all the detail, the shadow detail of the OLEDs, and the U8H, even though it doesn't like blooming, but it actually crushes the black in return. So this is what you're getting with Q95C, right? With the 1344 dimming zones, it's actually pretty amazing what it's able to do. Now, the OLED has a little bit more, even more of that shadow detail, the G3 on the right and the S95C, but the Q95C is right behind it, and U8H, you're losing a lot of that detail. So let me run that through. And so you can see the U8H is super bright in this scene. So this part of the scene, they all look the same. They all look great. It's in the more subtle areas of the scene.
Well, interesting. There's more detail on the QN95C where it gets washed out with the U8H, as far as Hugh Jackman, that scene where his arms are out wide.
Right.
And in the scene before that, where you had the two headlights, the headlights were pretty defined on the Q95C, and they were a little cooler.
Yeah.
The black bars look legit, though.
Oh, the black bars is so good this time around. Much better than the QN90B last year. So if black bars bother you, they've addressed it with the 1344 dimming zones. I have no complaints about the black bars at all.
What's the current pricing, FOMO? Do we know? What
It's the same price as the S95C.
Okay, same size,
65,
same price.
55-inch. Oh yeah, here's a great one. Obviously, to pause. So, specular highlights here is still a touch less sparkly than the OLED and a touch less sparkly than the U8H, but that's why the U8H crushes its black so it could kind of do its thing. I mean, I think at the end of the day, if you really want specular highlights, you have to get an OLED. That's the trade-off for burn-in. So, now there's still a firmware update to go. Maybe that will be fixed in a firmware update that we'll do after this, but that's just something for you guys to be aware of. U8H, not quite as bright in the specular highlight as the OLEDs, but it's noticeably brighter than the QN95C.
What's crazy is I know this is known now that OLEDs actually have a better specular highlights, but the fact is that also then leads to say, what is the point of having bright LEDs then? You know what I'm saying? Like, where is it being used if we're not going to get specular highlights brighter? You know, I mean, is it larger explosions? Because even in your larger fire scenes, I didn't see the LEDs looking brighter. If that
Hey,
if
hey,
that makes
Spirits
sense.
Muscle Frog. He wants to know which TV does he look best in.
Dude, that dude created that on the fly during
I
our
love
live
it.
stream. He's like, and he got the photo up perfect. Let's see.
I think the argument for the QN95C is 85 inches. If you need an 85-inch TV, go with the QN95C because the 83-inch just isn't as bright. Oh, this is a great one because this is where you see that. I'm going to do this right here. So this is why you get the QLED or the mini LED is for the brightness. Let me lower the exposure real quick so you guys can see.
So quickly, you got a super chat from Nintendo Power. Still rocking the S95B. Thank you so much for the $5 super chat, Nintendo Power. S95B is a beast, so hold on to that one. Okay, all right. Now, how is the OLED the whitest?
and this is not dimming, guys. This is just the load balancing. There's simply not enough energy available for the OLEDs to get as bright, right? From the get-go, it will not have the brightness of the mini LED. And they're all in filmmaker mode, right? This is not special movie mode and I'm tool mapping on. This is just filmmaker mode. So the Q95C and the U8H in filmmaker mode. This is probably closer to what it's supposed to be in this scene, but because it's so bright, the OLED simply cannot get it to the brightness you need. Now, it doesn't take away from the content, because I don't know if you need it that bright, but Brian, would you get, like the Z9K, would you get a mini LED to get the brightness that you're supposed to get in the scene?
So that was the conversation that I'm going to have with Rob Brennan because once I saw the 900C performed, I immediately went to the Z9K because I'll take a little blooming for my 4,000 nits to show up. And I think that's the conversation we're going to have when Sony releases their products is how do you guys feel? Do you want that peak brightness and the specular highlights of the Sony with a little blooming? Let me know in the comments how you guys feel about that. Is blooming still that much of a fear for you guys, or do you want the peak brightness back? And I feel like with Samsung, we're losing the specular highlights in order to mitigate blooming, if that's
Yeah.
what I can tell.
And he's still rocking the S95B. Thanks for the super chat. I don't think there's a reason to upgrade from the S95B unless you need a 77-inch. So if you have a 55-inch S95B, and
Yeah,
you're going to
keep
go
it.
77, absolutely. Otherwise, it's so close, it's a waste of money to get the few additions of the Q95C above that.
Most definitely.
So this
And
is something.
unfortunately, yeah,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. We
No,
have
no, go
another
ahead.
super chat. Just another super chat from
Oh, here we
Daniel.
go. Thank you, Daniel. Super chat. This G3 is not the 83, correct? Correct. This is the 65-inch G3 and the 77-inch S95C and 65-inch Q95C and 65-inch U8H. So I can assume that the 83-inch G3 is dimmer than this as well. Definitely. The 83-inch does not have MLA. It'll be very similar to the 83-inch G2 last year and probably similar to the 83-inch C3 as well. If that's the case, then definitely staying with my 900C. Yeah. Yeah, if you have the 900C 85-inch, it will definitely be brighter, Daniel. Thank you for that. So what are you saying, Brian?
Um, Nothing. What's up, Max? I'm using my LG cup. If you can tell,
Uh, so this scene is interesting
I work
because
for LG now.
the G, okay, so you see the mouth of the cave, Brian, in the scene, the mouth of that cave? The
Yep.
mouth of that cave is actually a light shade of blue and is super bright. But when it's that bright, both the U8H and the G3 is desaturated. It's just white, whereas the Q95C and the S95C preserved some of that blue in the sky. The question is, well, what's accurate? Is there supposed to be blue? And this is why you need a reference monitor. I don't know if there's supposed to be a blue, but I know the U8H is calibrated and it doesn't have the blue. And the G3 is not calibrated, but it also doesn't have the blue. But it could also be the limitation of the panel. So these are the things that you really can't answer unless you have a reference monitor. Because after calibration, there is that question whether, okay, it's calibrated, but maybe the panel technology limits what you can show anyway, right? I mean, how do we know if it's supposed to be blue in the mouth of that cave?
Well, you gotta just call the dude that did Fury Road, just get him on the line real quick, and say, "Look, on that cave scene, what were you thinking?" He's like, "I don't know, bro.
I don't
It
know.
was on
Is it
film."
supposed to have blue?
Oh my god. How's so far from what you've seen? How's screen uniformity? How's DSC? How's that looking?
Uh,
I know
So
you're
I
not
have,
testing for it, but
we could actually run a uniformity test after this as well. I didn't even check uniformity because I kind of put it up a few hours ago. I just want to make sure everything was working. I resisted doing a firmware update until I did this first because I noticed it was a 23, firmware 23, because this was sent to me by Samsung. So Samsung may have updated it before they sent it to me. And now there's another update. And so I'll check. The S95C does not have an update ready to go, but the Q95C does. So I think the Q95C has a firmware update for it, another one, and it's not even released yet. So they already got a
dude,
couple of firmware updates.
you're gonna update the S95C.
Yes, I will.
You are live without a net, my boy.
I
Just
am.
gonna, you know what it is? You're just trying to capture um, a viral video of one of these things blowing up. You want that 10 million views of like, oh
Hey,
snap!
you see how the flame borders around the black bar, right? Both of these
Oh,
TVs,
Guitar Land. There we go.
I don't see any blooming on either of the U8H or the Q95C. I'll turn up the exposure so you guys could see, right? If you turn up the exposure, even turning it up, I mean, this is very impressive. The black bars, I'm overexposing it now, is no different on the 95C, the U8H, or the two OLEDs. And this is an accomplishment for both, well, obviously, a 1344 dimming zone S95C, but the U8H, I mean, it's brute forcing it with less than a quarter of the dimming zones of the QN95C. I'm so impressed. And we try to expose it a bit more and see to catch one of them out of sorts. Look at that. That's so. If you guys have any questions about so now if I get it up high enough, my camera could catch a little bit of the lifted black on the bottom of the U8H, but that's not visible. It's just my camera is highly sensitive. But look at the Q95C, right? So this is why you pay the big bucks for the 1344 dimming zones. Look how black the Q95C is on the black bars relative to the U8H. It's a near match for the OLED. So bravo, Q95C. I could not get this on the QN90B last year. And the
I'm
Q98
telling you,
came close.
Samsung. I think Samsung removes the LEDs when there's black bars.
They just throw it out
I
the
think it
door.
just shuts them off. We got a super chat from
Oh,
Jasmine Lee
okay, let me
that
look it
we
up.
missed.
Where? Did I
Sorry,
miss it?
I do. I don't know because these comments. It's Jasmine Lee. You got a couple. Actually, I think you might have two. Hold
Was
on.
it
You have
after Daniel?
Daniel. Did you get Daniel? Oh yeah, we
Oh,
got Daniel. It's
is it
down
before it? Oh, I
below.
see, I see, I see.
It's
All right,
after
here we go.
Daniel.
I
Yeah.
caught it. Hey, Jasmine Lee, thank you for that super chat. What TV would you recommend that has the best performance and picture quality? The Z9K or the Z9G? Brian, you're the perfect man to answer this because you've seen both. What are your thoughts?
I mean, they're close, but the Z9K is it's the newer TV and a little bit of a better algorithm. So I would go with the newer TV with the Z9K, and they're confident enough in the Z9K to let it go another year. So I would stay with it. It's the current TV, and I hate to say this, but getting, kind of getting the Z9G was a bit of a bloom box. It was so bright that it bloomed a lot in comparison to the Z9K. So Z9G is just getting old at this point because I think the Z8H. I mean, just go Z9K. I know it's tempting to go for the Z9G, but it's just getting old at this point, and it
Yeah.
bloomed quite a bit. I mean, and it clipped at the 4,000. It gave you that, but it wasn't useful on content a lot. I almost bought it. All right, so what's up, Max? What's up, SD? What's up, Spears of Muscle Frog? Let's got everybody. What's up, Loki? AJ, John. High Def News. What's up, big dog? High Def is like the TMZ of TV land.
You got to check out how bright both the G3 and the S95C is. It's a match for both mini LEDs. I mean, this is pretty impressive with the brightness. Now on the OLEDs, the shadows a touch darker, so you have that dynamic range is slightly better, but OLED has caught up to mini LED, no doubt. And mini LED has caught up to OLED in many ways too, right? I mean, in
So,
both the
yeah,
black levels and the black bars, Q95C specifically. The detail in the clouds behind the guy, all of that high brightness detail is on the Q95C. It's slightly brighter than the G3 and the S95C, whereas the U8H clips all of that. It's just bright. So you're getting the 95C for these little details that you may not catch unless you pause it, but it's just something that I have to applaud the engineering team for doing this. This is not easy to do with mini LED and dimming zones to get this to work.
Now, what about the shadow detail on the guy? Is it that crushed in person, or is that just the camera?
No. So let me raise, okay, let me go down real quick so I can see. But yeah, I'll raise the exposure so you guys can see the shadow detail a bit.
What's up, Michael Cohen? What's up, Hater? What's up? Keeping up the Josens. Ah, come on. What's up, Heath? Chin Tupac. What's up? What's up, John? Stock Rosso Redemption.
So the shadow
Dias. What's up?
detail, look at that. In this bright scene, the shadow detail is very similar to the OLED. Obviously, the OLED has a little bit more depth in that shadow detail, but this is normal. You will not get this much shadow detail on a mini LED maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But yes, there's a touch of that bleeding, but you're not going to notice that. It's just my exposure is super high. It's so
Yeah.
bright, I can't see it, but that blooming is obviously, camera will see it, but you're not going to see it. I'm really hyper exposing this.
FOMO, can you
Look at the
with
G3, you're going to see, look, the G3 is blooming, but it's so bright, it actually is not.
yeah. Do me a favor. Can you step off angle even without the camera and let me know what the blooming is off angle compared to the U8H? I'm
Oh,
just
okay.
curious.
Yeah, let me see.
I don't want you to bring your whole rig over there. Yeah, come on.
So interesting. The U8H is uniformly slightly lifted, so there is no one part that has more blooming. The Q95C, because the black level is so deep, where it does bloom, that's where you see it off angle. So let me play it through. Yeah,
So I
I'm
guess
hoping to keep these things short so that I don't get nailed for that. What were you saying, Brian?
can you is there any settings where can you shrink the chat the when the chats come up, the super chats come up on your screen, but they're in front of the QN95.
Oh, okay. Right here.
Thanks, Loki.
Yeah, here we go. Let's shrink it like that. Then put it
All right, so
aside.
somebody super chat so I can see it.
I know, right? Like
Make
that.
it a big one, then $5,000. I can't. You still it's
All
still on the
right.
way.
Do you
Oh
guys?
wait.
Oh,
All right,
wait.
there. Yep.
Let
Drop
me
it.
pause this one real quick because this is a good one. This is the one, the
So, all
infamous
right, so go lower on
supermarket
the chat.
scene.
Go a little lower. Oh yeah. Just drop it down a little bit. Can you drop the thing down? Oh, you're not even over there anymore.
Okay, is that better?
What the? A
Oh,
little lower. You gotta drop it lower. A little
drop.
bit,
Oh,
because
is that better? Can
because
you still see
I'm
it?
actually, yeah, I'm behind. Well, I don't know. I'm actually behind. So let's see,
Is that better?
a little lower.
There you go.
No. Well, yeah. One more quarter of an inch.
Like that.
Yeah, that's good enough. That's all
There
right.
you go. Okay.
I can't believe
From Daniel.
I can't see the TVs live. I'm watching them like everybody else.
Do you guys think there's a chance of 83-inch QD OLED or MLA next year? QD OLED, I do not know. I don't think so because I think they want to sell more TVs, and 42 and 48-inch, there's a larger market to sell through. MLA 83-inch, there's a good chance. There's a better chance of an 83-inch MLA than there is of a QD
Yeah.
OLED 83-inch, but that's my guess. Speculation. I don't know yet.
Well, the word on the street too is you will not see an 83-inch MLA until you see an 83-inch QD OLED. So they're going to keep that in the back pocket until that's what I hear, which is frustrating. But they kept the MLA away until QD OLED dropped. So
Right.
as I drink out of my LG cup because apparently I'm an LG employee, from what everybody says.
William has a good question. Do you know if the dimming zone count difference between the QN95C or 96C and the U8K? The 1344 dimming zone is way more than U8K. I think the U8K dimming zone count is probably going to be in the 500s. I don't know the exact number, but it's closer to 5 something, under 600, whereas the Q95C is 1344. So I'd say roughly twice as many dimming zones on the Q95C. And, oh, this is that great pan scene. Okay, so
These
I
movies
think
are
you can see it.
terrible.
I think you can see this on YouTube, where the U8H just clips that sunshine. Yes, it's brighter, but it is just a blob of brightness, whereas the Q95C is brighter than the OLEDs while preserving that highlight. And this scene, it's slow enough where you actually appreciate, you see the subtle clouds. Can you see it on your side, Brian?
Yeah, yeah. They're just blown out on both. They're blown out more on the U8H. There's no detail at all on the U8H. In the
Yeah.
sun, you're talking about? Yeah, that's blown out.
Yeah. So see right here, I made the adjustments, you guys could see it. So the QN95C is almost as bright as U8H while preserving all of that detail. And its detail is as good as the S95C. G3 is second to the two Samsungs, and the U8H is just a blob of yellow right there. But it's bright,
That's do you like
right?
that's my scientific term for it. It's a blob
Yeah.
of yellow. You're paying. See, that's what you say about you pay for that extra 5%. You pay
Yeah.
for less blob.
That's what you're paying for, the less blob. But most
So
people are
quick,
like, wow, so bright, I love it.
so quickly. Someone said, "Do I prefer the G3 over the S95C?" Right now, I prefer the S95C simply because the gaming's not great in the G3 right now. So I think people keep thinking because of my coverage at the G3, I prefer it. That's not the case.
Yeah.
And I'm drinking out of a G3 cup to talk some smack. Hold on,
And there's been a lot
it's
of
water.
heartache by LG fans about the G3 not, or disappointing compared to the S95C. What are your thoughts about that, Brian? Do you think people are overstating their disappointment? Are they just focused on the one thing that people really will not notice, even though, quote unquote, it's a difference and it's an advantage of the S95C? But you don't necessarily see that in regular content, those advantages. What are your thoughts about
No,
the
I think
G3
it's
fans?
I think it's blown out. I mean, as far as we spent, I don't know, 40 hours with them both with all kinds of content. They traded shots. Couldn't say one was much better than the other, which is why the end of it, I was like, if you like the stand or you like the remote, go for whatever one or the operating system. So I think I'm super impressed with the G3, especially the way it handles the whites and the specular highlights. It's just right now the gaming is lacking for reasons I hope they can update. But
Right.
I mean, for WRGB OLED, I think it's amazing. But as far as people being disappointed in it, I just think that's where the narrative gets pushed, and then people just start regurgitating. And now I'm fearful for people that bought the G3 to think now it's not good because they keep hearing it and they keep spitting it up. It's not the case. It's
And
phenomenal.
right. And we don't ever want to say, oh, don't worry, the G3 we fixed in a firmware update. Forget firmware updates by any of these TVs for now. I think the
Mm-hmm.
G3 makes a good case for itself regardless, because I had someone ask me, he was also debating between the G3 and the S95C. It's the same price. And the G3, if you're watching mostly sports, you're watching TV shows in SDR, you're in a bright room, it is literally the brightest OLED you can get, period, bar none. You put it in cinema home, you put on dynamic tone mapping, and it still preserves color detail, color accuracy. You cannot do that with the S95C. But the S95C does other things that we notice is better. Ooh, this is a good one. This is where the G3 needs to fix. Okay, so, and the S95C does this a little bit better, and we're going to get into what this is. This is the banding issue that people have been talking about, and it's very obvious in this scene. But how often do you see this scene? I had to look through so many movies and finally found this one, but I didn't see this issue in any other movies.
Okay. Wow. Interesting.
Okay, so if you look at the G3, it has banding that pulses. So you have two issues. You have chrominance overshoot, which when the scene is in motion, it'll start to pulse. So that's one
Yep.
distraction. But if you freeze it, then you have the halo, the banding halo, that's not even on the G3 because it's a desaturation of color in those bands. On the QN95C and the S95C, they look almost identical. The U8H is slightly better than the G3, but it still has a little bit of that chrominance overshoot, but the banding is not as bad. So I'm going to run this one more time so you guys can see it. But I don't know if you could see that. All three of them kind of flash because that is the scene. But on the G3, the pulsing is slightly worse. Maybe you can see the banding here. Let's see here.
What's funny is the blacks were better on both LEDs.
Oh, the backs look great, doesn't it?
Well, they're better than the OLEDs in that scene.
Right. And what am I doing here, right? I'm kind of pausing and stuff, but you do notice it because wait, because I normally don't notice that until there's a color difference. Then you see, oh, okay, I see the banding there. Like right here, you don't notice anything, but as you drift away, then you see it. But again, how often do these scenes happen? I tell people, look, this is literally 2 seconds, maybe 5 seconds in an entire movie. But if you're paying this much, I guess you want to avoid that. And then how many times you're going to watch Monster Hunter, right? So yeah, so
No,
that's another
never.
thing, Brian. When you see this, does it change your mind? Do you go right away and get another TV?
No, I mean, again, being a gamer, it does apply because I definitely see more banding on my C1 than I saw on the S95C. So I see it in gaming again. I'm controlling the scene where here it's quick. In gaming, you're controlling where the camera looks. So a lot of these flaws will show up in that kind of instance. So
Right.
yeah, it does matter.
Here's a great super chat. Oh, you know what? I'll move him under us. I
What's
realize
up,
I'm.
Dylan?
All right.
I'm
Thank you for
sorry
the
that I
super
can't.
chat.
I can't, I
Do you
can't
know what panel the 77-inch Q90C will use? So all 77 inches use the newest panel. Now, software and processor will hold it back because it obviously cannot match the Q95C, but it should be the same panel that is in the Q95C. So yeah. Now, the 65-inch, 55, I really don't know. I mean, we won't know, but for sure on the 77-inch, it's the same panel, right? So let me do a quick gray
So which one of these TVs is
uniformity
good?
DSE real quick.
Which one of these TVs is good for gaming? Actually, all of them are good. I think the U8 did they end up sorting out the U8H's issues? I don't think.
You
I think they
know,
were still
so
doing like a half resolution blur.
4K 120 is half resolution. So that one is a processor
So
issue. You cannot sort that out. That's just, it is what it is. The U7K has solved it, and I believe the U8K has solved it as well. But
okay.
it's, I spoke to Hisense, and they just said, hey, look, the processor we had in place simply cannot do 4K 120 at full resolution. Now,
So no, they're not good for gaming then.
yeah, their fix was to lower the image processing to get you 4K, but now the image processor or the
Yeah,
4K image takes a step down. So, because you
yeah.
also have to have high or low latency as well. So for the processor to do all of that, it was really tough. They did not have a fast enough processor in place.
So for the question, are these good for gaming? The G3 is good for gaming. So is the S95C and the QN90. But I'll tell you, Samsung just feature wise with the 144 native and the ultra wide, they do it all. They don't miss anything. So I mean, you have to give Samsung the edge. You know that they actually started the game bar, I think, with the Q90R. Oh, here we go, Spears of Muscle, baby. Where's that frog at?
The frog.
Uh, what's up, Tristan? All right, Spears of Muscle Frog. All right, I got three. I got the devices. I'm looking at 5 different devices. Dude, we got to find a way to put this on screen, man. This is like I'm using my phone. All
I
right,
know,
let's
right?
see. Yes, I'm still an LED fan, guys. I'm trying to buy one this year. Um, it would be the 900C or maybe even the X95K. Or I'm sorry, L, if that really is blowing me away. Or, Z9K, I don't know.
All right, let's do a 15% grayscale and let's see.
All right.
Oh,
I'm going to go
wow.
through these
Not bad.
comments.
Okay,
Oh, I'm
so
lagging. Let's
on the
see.
camera, it looks a lot worse than what I see. What is this band?
Damn.
I
What's that
can't even see
line,
that.
bro?
I know.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
what you guys are seeing,
Holy crap.
the camera is catching more dirty screen than I'm seeing visually. Just so you guys know, clearly the S95C is just untouchable in its uniformity. It is so good. The U8H isn't bad, and the G3 is a lot better than it was before. Before I had major banding up and down. Right here, it's very minor. But this is the camera kind of overexposing so you guys can see it. I'm not even seeing that. Oh wait, it's moving up and down. Okay, see, so that's not even banding. That's just that's just my camera. Let me lower it just a
So
bit.
this is
Okay,
this
there
is
you go. Oh,
the
that's a little
still
bit better.
pad. This pattern's not moving, right?
Yeah, that pattern was moving earlier, so that's not even a real band. Okay, this is probably a bit better. Uh, The QN95C, technically, you would call this a pretty clean panel for what I'm seeing. I would not return it if I got it this way. Now, obviously, the S95C is just perfection. I'm just so impressed with that. But the Q95C is actually better than I've seen before. Like last year's 900C was not this good. It was worse than the U8H. So I'd say this passes the test. What do you guys think? I mean, when you guys run your 15% grayscale, would you guys reject a TV based on this? I would not. This is actually pretty good. What are your thoughts, Brian, on the DSC? Like,
Well, well, I don't see it as DSC, but what's funny is these slides, everything looks bad. They all
I
look
know
bad. That's why I don't run them until I think
you
there's a
can't.
problem. But I think, I don't know. I am shocked at how clean the QD OLEDs are able to manage that. Like as far as screen uniformity. I've got a super chat, the Silent Ranger.
Yeah, so
Quickly
this is at
from it.
25% gray. I mean, this is not bad. And that little band on the bottom, it's actually moving. So it's more of a
Camera.
exposure slash shutter speed thing. Hey, there's a super chat. Thank you, Silent
Yep.
Ranger. Thinking of getting an S95C, but can wait for a phosphorescent blue QD OLED. And if you think it will be a big upgrade, what kind of performance increase do you expect from this over these TVs? Okay, so in speaking with Chirag, first of all, he doesn't know what to expect. So Chirag is one of their guys from Samsung Display, and Samsung Display would be the one that would incorporate phosphorescent blue. One thing he knows for sure, phosphorescent blue is more efficient, which means it'll put out the same amount of brightness for less energy. So then they're going to ask themselves, do we need to get brighter? If we can extend the life of the TV, have it last longer, and keep the brightness the same, wouldn't that be better for the TV? And so that's something that they're going to have to discuss. Now, if they get it brighter with the new blue, but then the life is shorter, right? You can't have it both ways. It can't be both brighter and the life is extended, because if you lower the brightness just a little bit, the life extends even longer, because ultimately it's still OLED. So if they match the brightness of the new blue to the current blue, you're going to get a longer lasting TV, which is great for everyone. But if they want to hit the market hard and assume you're going to buy a new TV every 4 years, they might punch the brightness up a little bit more. So we don't know what that end decision will be. So I don't think it's worth waiting. I say get the TV and enjoy it
No.
now. But you know, Brian and I, we kind of agree with that, right? Especially if it's 2 years out. What do you think? What would you tell the Silent Ranger?
Well, I mean, I would say it's like even me with waiting for an MLA 83. If you're in need of a TV now, it's hard to. This is the beginning of the year. If it was the end of the year, I'd say maybe hang in there. But it's going to be a first generation technology. But I think the conversation, FOMO, about TVs lasting, it reminds me of the conversation about um, projectors and lamp life. I
Mm-hmm.
can't believe we're talking about TVs in that regard. You know what I mean? Like I can't believe we're like, oh well, let's make the TV last. And we know when you get into words like efficient, that usually means not as powerful. But
Yep.
with receivers, it's efficient, so it doesn't sound as good. So I want to see things get as bright as they can, and hopefully they last. But um, I don't know, man. This new technology, that's what I mean. Like the QN90, the Artings ratings test was kind of testing that, but again, it was a huge use. So I want them to let the TV be as powerful as it could possibly be.
Yeah. And this is what, so this luminance loading is kind of like the torture test for mini LEDs. And I think, as you can see, the QN95C has slightly more blooming, but it's slightly brighter. But this is why you get the Q95C, is to get that extra brightness that no one else gets. So in a bright room, you're not going to see the blooming. This is in a dark room with the camera exposed, but it gives you guys kind of like a relative brightness and performance between an OLED and a mini LED, right? So both mini LEDs, the U8H on top and Q95C, when you get that bright, it's always going to be that touch of blooming. But you're never going to see this in real content. This demonstrates, and they're significantly brighter than the OLEDs, by the way. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Now, quickly, Fomo, back to our 900C conversation. Are you seeing any of that graying that we saw on the 900C?
Any of the what?
Any of that graying that we saw the 900C do against the S95?
The
Are you seeing
graying?
that at all? Yeah. Remember that graying we were seeing where the 900C didn't seem as bright because it kind of grayed
Oh,
itself out? Are you
yeah.
seeing that at all in the
Well, you
Q195C?
know what? I did not, and thanks for. Let's try
You would
that.
have noticed it because it wasn't bright. So
Let's try the SDR Sports, and we'll see. Because I think that was an SDR, wasn't it? as well?
No, it was in well, it was in both, but it just
Sure.
got to be where whenever it was brighter, it was.
Yeah, this is a good chance to compare dynamic modes between the TVs, because a lot of people are watching sports in standard dynamic mode, right? So
I mean, you guys got to think. Here we are, this many years later, we actually have these bright OLEDs. I mean, it really.
yeah,
It used to be so evident. The minute you saw an OLED next to or plasma next to an LED, it always looked super dim. Now they're on screen together, looking like this. It's pretty amazing.
it is amazing. Oh, I'm just so thrilled with what OLED can do now, you know?
Yeah.
So you guys can see apples to apples. So I'm putting all of them in their sports mode. Essentially, this is their brightest mode for watching sports. There you go. It's actually called sports.
Now, quickly, you guys, I know this is going on in the chat a little bit. What is your thoughts on Samsung's reliability? Is that something that you feel has gotten better from what you've seen? I know we've seen other creators have bent panels, but remember, Samsung sells so many. But how are you guys with their reliability? You guys feel like you can trust them, or is that still something you're not really? I want to hear what you guys think about that reliability.
Which reliability you're talking about? Samsung overall?
Just Samsung in general. I think Samsung a lot of times it sounds really bad. I've had a ton of bad ones, but they sell so many.
Uh-huh.
But I'm just curious as to if everybody in the chat feels like they trust them, or are they still very leery of even the updates as well? You guys have trust for that, or you buy the TV, take it offline immediately? So we'll be buying the extended warranty for any TV over $1,000. But I get you.
It's funny you asked that. So I've had 4 Samsung TVs, and I've never had any of them fail on me, except for one, which was the QN90B, with a local dimming zone bug affected me. It was both a hardware and a software issue, and Samsung
Yeah.
replaced it. That was the only time that it's happened, but I've had a QN90R, still works well. Got it in 2019, still running with it in my bedroom. I had the QN900T for a while, about a year. QN90A was great, and S95C so far ticking strong. I've never thought of. I think all TVs have issues. If you go on the user forums or any of the reviews on Amazon or Best Buy, there's always going to be 100 people. Oh my God, customer service is terrible. It broke down the minute I got it. But if you dive deep, a lot of the dissatisfaction is the delivery, the carrier screwed up, or maybe Best Buy had bad service, but they blame it on the TV, right? So there's the core TV itself. If you look at consumer reports, consistently, they're like, look, if you pay over 2,000, most people are happy with the reliability. If you pay under 800, most people are not happy with the reliability. And so there's definitely a cost to customer service to durability ratio. And of course, above a certain amount of money, it's all the same. And I think consumer reports said over 1,500, over 2,000, they all pretty much have the same reliability. But below a certain amount, like 700, they're all bad. So, and some
Yep.
worse than others.
They're
TCL,
all bad, 100%.
I think TCL below 700 performs better than any other TV below 700, whereas
Oh
Vizio
wow.
above 1,000 performs worse than any other TV above 1,000. So then you have those
Oh my
outliers
god.
as well.
Well, I saw that Ratings just put up a Facebook post that their 900A died. The power
Ah,
supply died on their 900A.
the 900A.
So that's only a couple of years old to have that failure rate. So what are we seeing on screen now, FOMO? We got the golf rocking
This is
with soccer.
soccer. A lot of people watch, international football, and I have to say the G3 and the S95C are as bright as the mini LEDs. I mean, this is
That's incredible.
how often do we say that where we're watching sports and we're complaining that OLED's not bright enough? If you're paying for a flagship OLED this year, it's bright enough. There is no doubt about it. And I know,
Yeah.
that reminds me, I should check the rainbow effect for you guys. But yes, the U8H Q95C is a touch brighter, as you can see here, but I'm pretty satisfied with the brightness of the G3, which is brighter than the S95C, by the way. So that's just something for you guys to consider.
What about the Panasonic, FOMO?
Where's the Philips? It's not a shootout unless you have the Phillips.
I'm definitely gonna do a skit where someone's
No,
like,
no.
"Dude, go
I
on and
have the
grab that
T-shirt.
Phillips."
Everyone, I bought the T-shirt where it says, "Where's Panasonic? Where's Phillips?"
Yes,
I have the T-shirt.
they're like, "Yo, you gotta get Tech Giants got it." I'm like, he doesn't live down the road from me.
And John's
Oh
saying
man,
much brighter on the QN95C. It is brighter. I don't know about much. It's a little bit brighter than the G3. The S95C is, I don't want to call it dim, but it's the least bright of the four. Let me adjust the brightness a bit more for you guys. See, if I
let's
lower the
see.
exposure, then it's more obvious, right? So now I'm exposing for the U8H. So the U8H and Q95C are a match for each other. So now it's exposed for the U8H and the Q95C, and you notice, and this is why you get the mini LED, is I need every 50 nits I can get the Q95C. You're going to get every 50 nits because you're not going to notice if it's less than a 50 nit difference at all. But you're going to get it with the Q95C. It just,
So
and the
we got
U8H.
super chat from Dylan Sharp.
Oh, there we go. Hey, hey, thank you for that super chat, Dylan. So is it just picture modes or do the mini LEDs have a green shift? Well, first of all, the 95C and the 95C is not calibrated, but there is not a green shift. It's not just a picture mode, it's my camera. You have two different well, you have three different technologies. You have QD OLED, S95C, you have WOLED, the G3, and then you have Mini LED LCD, which is the U8H on top and the Q95C. So three different technologies will technically have three different types of white points that's going to have a bias, some kind of a color shift. The QD OLED, the S95C, should have the most accurate white point, but the camera is hypersensitive to each one's white point personality. If there is a green shift, it's actually on the G3. So if there is a green shift, the G3 has it slightly. You see it in certain skin tones, but you can calibrate that out. That's something that can be rid of.
So in
Oh,
the
look,
you
ooh,
with
look,
the it,
Superstar KG is here.
what's up, pimp? The U8H had the more nuclear green
in,
in that scene.
in, in dynamic mode. Yeah, and
Yeah.
guys, this
What's
is
up,
dynamic
KG?
mode.
Yeah,
So yes, dynamic mode, definitely Samsung has nuclear green. So if you guys are watching dynamic mode, you'll get the brightest, but you do get a strong green and blue shift because that's how they make their TVs brighter.
let's see. Is which are any of these calibrated? Fomo, you said Sammy is
Yes,
calibrated. Which one?
the U8H is actually calibrated.
The cheap one's calibrated.
Yes.
It's awesome.
Sammy Prescott came by last year and calibrated it with the A95K and the 900C. So let me tell you that story that's very interesting. Is he calibrated the U8H, the 900B last year, this U8H, 900B, A95K, and the TCL. Halfway through, he threw up his hands and said, I will never calibrate a Roku TV ever again. He literally almost quit his job. It was so bad. It was so heart-wrenching
He lost control.
how hard it was. So he's like, I will never calibrate a Roku TV again. So the TCL, he couldn't even calibrate the thing because it did not hold the settings that he put in. It was very frustrating. And it still had the red push at the end of it all. The 900C, he tried. He did as much as he could, but it still was inaccurate at the end. Ultimately, the U8H and the A95K ended up so close at the end. It was just amazing. With the U8H having the best shadow detail compared to the 900C, that I said, you know what? This is my editor's choice. I mean, when it beats the 900C, and we're talking filmmaker mode, we're not talking gaming, just basic movies and streaming. And this is why I say, for $1,000 for the 65-inch, you're not going to come close to that performance with any TV.
No.
Period.
As
Right?
long, I guess,
And
as long as you don't
so
game on it,
amazing.
because
Yes,
that's a
that's
no.
it.
It's a
As long as you don't game,
no.
right?
Yeah, no bueno. Yes,
No
Robert
bueno.
did. For you guys that asked, somebody asked if Robert sells the Panasonic. He did sell them the 1 year that they did just the movie display, and he's very tight with the Samsung upper brass. They have, or I'm sorry, Panasonic upper brass. They have no desire to sell TVs in the U.S. anymore. We can't even steal them.
Well,
Send them
Brian,
over.
I should ask you about the C3. I haven't seen the C3 myself. You have. So Brian is one of the few that has spent so much time with the G3, the S95C, the 900C, and now the C3. These are like kind of like the TVs everyone's throwing about. I'm also looking forward to hearing your observations on the S90C as well. But what are your thoughts so far, just at a high level?
I mean, the C3 is it's tough because it's just that little bit better than the C2, which is a little bit better than the C1, which it gets knocked for because it's an incremental upgrade. But that's really all we can expect, guys, is incremental upgrades, not going backwards. But I personally really like the new features, the expression enhancer. I like the shortcut menu. I like the way you're able to stay in the menu. The game optimizer, if they ever figure it out, is very good. So the C3, think the same difference between C2 to C1 is what you're getting with the C3. But it goes into the C3 being good enough that I would get it against a 65-inch G3 because its size, uh, size comparison. I compared the C3 to the G3. The G3 smoked it in terms of its specular highlights and brightness, but the C3 still looked really good.
Now, if it was your money and you needed that 83-inch T, oh, I think I have it in dynamic mode. Wow.
Attaboy! There you go. Let it
Look at
fly.
that dynamic mode. Okay, guys, so all four TVs are in vivid dynamic mode, and you're watching HDR. You're watching just massive
Did your
brightness.
did your power flicker real quick?
Oh,
Your
wow.
lights.
Look at that blue. Okay, the 95C in dynamic mode is really impressive. I'm liking it. Oh, and many of you guys don't know this. Many of my secret Samsung friends who actually are reps at Samsung, they always watch in dynamic mode. They said this is why we love the Samsung TV. The dynamic mode is just so amazing. They watch everything in
What?
dynamic mode, right? I mean, that
Oh,
green frog is the thing for them. So,
wait, who
but they
said
won't
that?
tell anyone else
Samsung
because they
reps.
get mocked. Huh?
The Samsung rep said that.
Yeah, yeah.
Not the
I mean, he's a Sam.
engineers. The rep.
No, no, not he. I mean, he works for Samsung. You know, he gets his Samsung TV. He goes, dude, I know what I'm supposed to watch it in, dynamic mode. And Leo, he watches everything in dynamic mode. Right? I'm like,
That's why.
wow,
Yeah, dude.
the green frog is a thing.
Well, in the comparison, Leo was like, "Put it in dynamic." I'm like, "No." It's like it's got to be able to hang in there on some other modes.
Okay, but what do you think of this? And KG has a great point. The problem with the C3 is the S90C exists for a similar price, and the S95B is way cheaper. So, Brian, does that change your decision?
I mean,
S90C comes in a 77-inch as well.
yeah, I mean that's the problem. That's why the G3 is so valuable this year. But he has a good point because the C3, yeah, I mean it really going against the QD OLED against the G3 is one thing because they're siblings, but against the QD OLED, especially having an S90C out there now, it's really a hard sell. You have to really like LG and the operating system and this and that. But he's right. I mean QD OLED is I don't know. I mean, I would definitely go with the QD OLED over a regular W. Now, but that also goes for the A80L upcoming, or an
Right.
A90J. So, I mean, it's either QD OLED or G3 if you want to be on the cutting edge.
What would you get at a 77-inch? I know you're waiting for the 83. Your money, you have to bring home. Your TV's broken. You have that. What do you have right now? A90J, an 83, or the C3, or
That's a C1. That's a
you
C1.
have a C1 in the 83. It breaks
Mhm.
down. What is your replacement TV this year?
If I had, well, if you go back to your first question, at 77 S95C, no hesitation. Just
S95C.
the better gradients, the more gaming features. I like the S95C for those reasons. As far as 83, it would be a G3 because I think the new panel and the new power supply will help it over last year's G2. But I'm looking for 85, which makes it even harder. So I'm looking at X95L. Is that we're on L? Yeah. So between the
Yes.
77, I would go with the S95C just because
Now,
I'm a gamer and I would love the 144 hertz and the ultra wide, just having it there. And the presets. I love the flexibility with Samsung's presets, being able to take, there's, of many different, you can make it look accurate, you can make it look crazy. G3 just needs to get that extra gaming sauce to make it really compete.
and what about the picture mode? Because I like what Loki is saying. Standard mode is a nice compromise between filmmaker mode and dynamic. I mean, it's brighter, but it preserves some of the color accuracy. Do you watch in standard mode?
No. Standard mode is, well, depends. If you're in Sony, standard mode is nice out of the box. This year, LG's standard mode is actually not that bright. We saw that it was actually, it seemed like it wasn't quite as bright as the filmmaker mode or the cinema mode, but standard mode is the most popular mode, even though a lot of purists don't use it. Um, but it depends. If I'm in a Sony, I use standard quite a bit, but not with LG.
Yeah, I think Sony standard actually is pretty conservative. It doesn't go crazy, but
Mm-mm.
and if you calibrate anyway, I think it's fine.
And I mean,
I like
Samsung
LG
settings don't
cinema.
always match up either. You know, so sometimes Samsung's, what are they now? Natural, standard. They always
Dynamic.
change the names a little bit.
Yeah, it's just standard dynamic. Samsung actually cleaned it up. It's like movie mode, filmmaker, standard dynamic.
Oh, they had natural. It's like
Yes,
natural.
I used to like natural actually.
Oh yeah,
You know, what's interesting is all these TVs, only the LG recognized HDR and automatically switched to filmmaker. And I know some of these have that filmmaker recognition, but the LG stored that without the auto filmmaker recognition
they're good
algorithm.
like that. Samsung is the worst, man. Like I have to search. I mean, remember KG came on the stream. He was like, no. If you look in the bottom corner, if you go over it twice, to click it twice, and HDR pops up. Like, what are you talking about? I had to find it.
Yes, Biohazard, to answer your question, do you think QD OLED is the best current TV technology? Absolutely. Well, for me, three big reasons that I think everyone's going to notice. Way better uniformity. I mean, you guys saw that it had the
Yeah,
cleanest panel. So right there, it just feels to me that manufacturing of QD OLED, we're at its zenith right now. And then secondly, color luminance is the best out there. And among all OLEDs, it gets bright enough for most use cases. You could still get a little bit brighter with the U8H or the Q95C mini LED, but that's actually a smaller group that need that level of brightness. I think the QD OLED, and this is only the second generation, literally the
yeah,
second year. Where will we be in a few more years? So QD OLED is going to push their improvements every year, whereas WOLED, it's so mature. I don't know where it's going to push its improvements after MLA. I mean, I know there's blue uh, phosphorescent OLED coming up, but having a WOLED plus a color filter, those two are actual obstacles. You have to get rid of that. You have to get rid of the color filter. You have to make it more efficient, and QD OLED is a more efficient stack. So,
well, and QD OLED. For those of you that didn't see the end of our stream, we actually did run a banding heavy game, which is Deathloop on the PS5, and the banding was minimal. Still there a little bit, very fine banding, but it was very evident on the G3 still. So I mean, that is definitely a strength.
did you ever have issues with dirty screen effect? Because I know a lot of people talk about it, but you've been through a lot of TVs. Did you ever have issues with DSC where you had to return it?
Samsung used to be the worst. I mean, like on the KS9000, those very bright LEDs, it would be blotchy. I mean, it was what it sounded like. Um, I would say this C1 definitely has quite a bit of banding on certain content. Like right now, Cyberpunk with a new ray tracing, some of the banding's more evident now with that forced ray trace pathing. So then again, at 83, they are a risk, which is why I'm looking to change back to LED.
Right. Here's a great question for you, Brian. Dylan Sharp, thank you for the super chat, asks, Brian, would you still take a mini LED if you could get an 85 to 98 inch tier 1 OLED for the same price?
Ooh,
Like,
son. Come on,
is it mini
Dylan.
LED or sizes you prefer? Like, is it the
So,
actual technology or you just need the larger size?
so Dylan, I love Dylan. Dylan actually paid for this question to trip me up because he knows that there's no such thing as an 80. Well, there is a 98 inch OLED. The
Right.
problem is a screen uniformity for that. And that it's a great question. So you're asking me basically, am I only choosing mini LED because they're larger? And I would say yes, simply because it's weird because 75 inch. Think about it, 75-inch LEDs are too small. So
Is that
so it's weird. 77's larger, obviously. And then if there was 85-inch OLEDs, yes, I would probably still stay with an OLED because contrast is king. There's just no way around it. I mean, LEDs just cannot get that micro contrast in detail within materials. So yeah, I would probably go with an OLED if I could have a larger one, especially a QD OLED. Primarily because the screen uniformity more than anything is what makes me really attracted to it. And what's making me hesitate from the 83-inch G3 is, fear of banding. I mean, again, I'm allergic to banding. more than anything, even more than blooming.
Yeah, especially if you're video gaming, right? You really notice that.
Well, and the
And
content is now these elevated games like Calypso Protocol, where you basically the it's over brightened. It's so evident. Now you're in there trying to lower the blacks, and you're trying to do all these things. It's a pain in the butt.
and here's a great one. Hey Christian, could LG adopt RGB OLED? So the answer is no, because they're not set up to adopt RGB OLED. Inkjet printed RGB OLED was Japan or JDI's thing, JOLED thing, right? And they couldn't make enough of them. They went out of business. They filed bankruptcy. Now it's owned by yet another company. You cannot move from WOLED manufacturing to RGB direct printed OLED. It's just such a huge paradigm shift for them. They would not be able to do it. And the reason why we haven't had it is it's a burn-in solution that was not available to RGB OLED. This is why Samsung couldn't solve burn-in. They wanted to stick with RGB OLED, and sticking with it, they just got worse and worse burn-in, whereas LG solved it with WOLED. So they don't want to go backwards. If they go to RGB OLED, they're going to face burn-in as an issue again.
Yep.
And inkjet printed OLED is the next generation of RGB, and it appears to have solved burn-in. I hope so. I have an RGB OLED monitor that I use to grade my videos, and hopefully it is a burn-in, but you're going to lack the specular highlights because inkjet printed OLED, although the APL is a few hundred nits higher, specular highlights will not break 500 nits. So you have the
Dude,
trade-off.
yeah, I hate that word, man. There's two terrible words in technology. Intermittent is terrible, and trade-off is terrible. Two words.
Trade-off. I don't want to trade off. No
Come
compromises.
on, I just want everything. Jesus, a little brighter, a little. Dude, it never stops.
Never.
Hey, no blooming. Sorry, your highlights are gone. Damn, give me my highlights. Yeah, but then you got the broken. I don't know. That's why I'm looking back at Sony guys for the lack of. I'll go with their keeping their things bright. That's why I'm wondering how the X95 and X93 will look.
Yeah.
What
Hey,
are we
thanks
looking at?
everyone for coming by. And don't forget, Brian has his own channel. Brian, tell us a little bit about what you do, about your channel. Maybe a lot of our friends, I know that most of them know you, but maybe we have some viewers who don't because there's a reason why you have tech therapy.
Yeah, so I'm Brian, formerly Whisper Status 74. Brian's Tech Therapy. I do the same thing. Everyone that you see here, because I do it. I've done it longer than everybody you've seen on here, which is funny. But I do tech therapy, which is more discussion based content. I still do comparisons. I've done them for years, but I'll get back into doing more discussion based and interviews with Sony, LG, and Samsung and ratings. So I'll be doing a lot of that as well as bringing you a lot of the TV because right now it's TV season FOMO. It's like being an accountant during
Yep.
tax time. So whatever TVs show up, I'll bring those to you as quickly as I can. That's why you see FOMO when I sharing the content. I'll see the QN95 in a few weeks. I'll compare it to the Z9K, see how it does. You'll see more 900C footage. But that's really it, man. Just that's all. We're all kind of in the same field. We just have our own little spins on everything. So
That's the,
check out
yep.
my channel if you've never seen me before. I know the TV space feels very crowded right now, but there's enough room for everybody because we all have our different takes. And
Yeah.
what I think is funny quickly is everybody FOMO is like, well, your boy likes this and this guy likes that. I'm like, yeah, I understand. We're not the same guy. It's like we're not a hive mind. You know what I mean? So
I
I think
know.
I'm
It's
looking
like,
at right now the X95L is probably the one I'm eyeing. Um, because I still don't see the 4090 even doing 8K is going to struggle. So, your
yeah.
high def news right on point says get the X95L.
And I have a question, Q95B or 95C? So Q95B has the One Connect box, 95C does not, but the 95C has 1344 dimming zones. I see it making a big difference. The 95B is nearly identical to the 90B. As far as most use cases are concerned, I think the 95C is a definite step forward. Having that
Yeah.
many dimming zones makes a difference. So if you're willing to wait a few months, Black Friday, it'll come down to $2,600. The 95B currently is around $2,500 or so. Just wait until Black Friday. 95C will drop to about that level. Get the 95C. It's definitely an improvement. If you need the One Connect box, then you have to go with the 95B because we are not getting a 4K with a One Connect box, with the exception of the S95C, which has the One Connect box.
Now, FOMO, I guess as we're wrapping things up, taking the other TVs completely away, what are your thoughts on the QN95? I mean, because I know you were very impressed last year with the 85.
Okay.
You think that, I know we saw the 95 had the better processor last year over the 90. We didn't really see it show up on TV on screen, but are you really seeing a noticeable difference here that you
Yeah.
recommend it?
So definitely black levels are deeper than the 90B. Specular highlights are about the same. Uh, it's not as bright as U8H, but as you saw, the U8H either crushes the blacks a little bit or it clips the highlights. It doesn't have that the subtlety and the nuanced sophistication of the image processing of the 95C, but then it kind of brute forces its way there, right? It's super bright, specular highlights are super bright, and then black levels are black because it kind of crushes. But the 95C, I appreciate its 1344 dimming zones because I see it as, like in this scene right here, if I raise the exposure, you can notice that the U8H is totally crushed out. And, oh yeah, raise exposure here.
Now we're getting requests to also see how it looks with active instead of static FOMO.
Oh yeah, yeah, I'll do that. So as you can see, there's actually detail outside of this red dot. The U8H crushes it out, right? But that's okay, it's only $1,000. So when you're paying more, you're getting a TV that's as close as possible to an OLED without some of the disadvantages of OLED. And it gets super bright. So let me put on active real quick and see what happens.
What's funny, if you're allergic to blooming, I think some people would say they appreciate a little bit of the crush just to mitigate it. But because right in here, if you were,
That's the beauty of the 95C, right? It
yeah.
eliminates blooming without the crushing.
See, now I'm looking at the QN95C, but I just have a hard time trusting Samsung.
Oh yeah. So now
Let's,
it's super bright, as you can see.
oh, we also got a super chat from Travis Vania. What's up, Travis?
Oh, where
Check him out.
is?
It's
Oh, there it is.
near the
Yeah, I
bottom.
see it. Okay, Travis,
Extrapolate. Nice
can
word.
you extrapolate the blooming performance of the 85-inch 95C from how the 65-inch is doing? On Samsung, I believe you can. On Sony, you cannot. Because as we've seen, they've kind of switched around their panel technologies to a certain degree. And even on some Samsungs, like the QN85B and QN85A, are VA panels of the 85-inch, whereas at the smaller sizes, an ADS panel, and that may affect blooming performance. But assuming the 95C is the same type of VA across the board, and the dimming zone density is close enough, I can say that at the larger size, your 95C is going to be pretty amazing. But again, your specular highlights will not be as bright as a similar sized OLED, but the whole screen will get a lot brighter than an OLED can get. How
Now, where are
premium?
you? Where are you on this ADS panel thing now? Where are you?
I
Do
think
you
the ADS
feel?
panel is the superior technology for most people. I understand that the VA may have better contrast here and there, but and I'm not alone. The boys, KG and Classy, they have the 90C, they have the ADS panel, and they felt that it was actually pretty good, better than last year that were VA panels. So KG's here, he kind of shared his feelings on that, but I liked the 85B last year, and it was the ADS panel, and it was highly recommended. It was just that because it was more expensive than the U8H, it was hard for me to make that jump, but it is a great gaming TV though.
Yeah.
So, but for most people who just watch movies and stream, I'd still recommend the U8H. And this is for something for you guys to know. Hisense has moved to ADS this year too on their flagship TV that they don't even sell here. So their UX 110-inch 8K and UX 85-inch, both of which are the super expensive TVs. The ADS panel was the best panel they can source. It was not the VA panel. So ADS is the most advanced panel that you can buy right now. Just so you guys have a feel for kind of like the market, it's advanced that far. So I don't have a problem recommending it if it is that level of an ADS panel. Whereas the VA, you have to be right in front of it. If you're off angle a little bit, there is some of that blooming and shifting, where the ADS is pretty consistent off angle.
Quickly, super chat from Scott Coakley.
Oh yeah, Scott, hey, here we
What's up,
go.
Scott?
Hey Scott, Do you still get $100 back from Hisense after 100 days? No, that's long gone. I think that ended October 31st last year, but maybe they'll do it again.
Halloween.
But yeah, they might. They just might, you know? I thought that was pretty cool. Would you buy a TV based on that? $100 if you say something
I
good about them?
didn't even know that existed. That was a thing.
Yeah, if they give you 100 days and you can return it anytime in the 100 days if you're not happy. And after 100 days, if you write a review, they'll give you $100, a positive review.
Damn, I'm in the business and I didn't even know that. All right, we'll buy 7 of them. Make a G on it.
All
All
right.
right.
Yeah, we're going to wrap up soon. I'm glad you guys can make it. So let me wrap it up for you because I also, oh, wait, you know what? Let me do a quick firmware update as I promised. Let's see if it breaks. I'm sure Samsung will be thrilled about that. This is Samsung's Loner TV. So I told them, hey, you know, I'm going to have fun with it for as long as I have it. And they're like, yeah, do whatever. Just don't break it. All right, update
let's
now.
try. So let's try and break it real quick.
That's,
Uh,
oh,
so you
I got
guys in the
excited.
chat, what do you guys think in the chat so far? What you've seen from the QN95C? Are you excited about Hisense's new panel coming out whenever they're going to release it? And what do you guys think the best TV is so far this year?
Oh, Brian, what do you think? I think it's the S95C. Let me get out there right now. I think
Yeah.
it's the highest performing. It's not necessarily the best TV for everyone, but for me, this is a TV I would get for myself because people ask me all the time. I said, look, for me, it has to be the S95C because I already know.
Yeah.
The server is under maintenance. Please try again later. I had a
That
chance to
yeah.
update
They
it 2 hours ago, and now they're saying, oh, too bad.
yeah,
We're going
they're
to lock you
watching
out.
they're watching the stream.
Like,
Like,
no,
oh, hit
no,
it, turn it off. Whoop!
turn it off. Don't let FOMO update it. We know what TV he has.
He's updating it. Code red.
Not
Code
online.
red.
Don't update it online.
I've
Oh,
never seen that before. That's awesome.
oh yeah. Hey, Kaleidescape. I have to do a shout out for them, right? So I bought the Kaleidescape, and I promise I go look. You guys have an
Oh,
amazing
what's up,
system.
Sammy?
I
What's up,
will shout
Sammy?
you out. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, for reviewers like us, I scripted a whole bunch of 5-second videos, which
Yeah,
you know
that
how
was
hard it
cool.
is to stop and pause in 5 seconds. What? Yeah, it's under maintenance. I can't update it. I'm sorry, guys.
Under
It was
maintenance.
open for download earlier, but I think Samsung realized that they don't want me doing it live. I guess I'm just making that up. I don't know, but
That's
they
a
do
hundred.
they do know I have this TV.
That's
And literally,
100% true, by the way.
this is probably the first QN95C review because it's not on sale yet. So other reviewers, unless you get it from Samsung, you're not going to have the TV. So I was telling Samsung, I'm so excited to show this off.
I wish Kaleidescape had an app to be able
They
to
do.
share.
As a
They
matter of
do.
fact, you could only control it through the app. It doesn't even come with a remote control. I called Kaleidescape. I go, hey, where's my remote? You got to download the app and just use your iPad or iPhone or whatever. So,
No, I meant an app to be able to watch your library on.
oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, yeah.
You know.
So, so Brian, your
Mm-hmm.
TV. So I chose the S95C. What TV impressed you the most that you would, assuming size is not an issue? Because I know you really want the 85.
I mean, if the S95C was 85 or 80, it would be a no question. I would go with the S95. I mean, because it covers all the bases, especially me being a big gamer. Definitely, the 900C was on the something I wanted until I saw how it performed against the S95C. So I'm waiting for that one to have an update. But if I was in the same boat as many of you are, and not in the heavyweight division, the S95C, and then the G3. But the QN95C, I think, looks great. I just wish that it was much brighter in the specular highlights because it's the same price. I would like to
Yeah.
see it be much brighter. Um, but I think someone put a comment saying that they're trying to get more OLED like. Don't lose your strength. Keep your saturation and keep your peak brightness. And I don't think I've seen enough from the QN95C that was much brighter than the S95C. I'd like to see it brighter.
Yeah. What about when you mentioned brightness? What are your thoughts on brightness as far as Are we there yet? I mean, do you need OLED to get any brighter? Because I know we've said in the past that we wanted it to get brighter. Are we there yet? The classic, are we there yet, Mom?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that push and pull, that I think if you try to push things brighter, as we mentioned, you lose the health of the panel. And what's the content that really dictates that? We're pushing Spears and Munsell at 10,000 nits just to be able to see the difference. So to keep chasing that, I'd rather see them chase more color or better uniformity, or I don't know, to give it more settings. I think we're there as far as brightness. But to our point, the LED's brightness is not as useful as it used to be. So
Hmm.
they're kind of meeting each other in the middle. And when they're the same price, OLED's going to beat it every time.
Yeah.
So it's hard to recommend something that's a very expensive TV if it's not an OLED.
Like that scene right there, the Q95C was the brightest. Wait, what happened here? Oh, because this is active mode. That's why, like, wait, it's normally the same.
Yeah.
So the 95C is in active mode, guys. If you guys are wondering why does the 95C look brighter, this is what happens when you put in active mode. It gets a little bit brighter. Speckle highlights, everything's just a touch brighter across the board. Now you can do the same thing with the G3. Put it in Cinema Home or Cinema with dynamic tone mapping on. If you're in Filmmaker and you turn on dynamic tone mapping, you're not going to get the same punch. You have to go to either Cinema or Cinema Home, then turn on dynamic tone mapping, and it'll be very similar to the Samsung on active.
And the filmmaker mode on the S95C was okay because remember it's broken on the 900C. At least it was on mine. So how's that been, the filmmaker mode? Did you get? Oh yeah, do me a favor, FOMO. If you have the Spears and Munsell, that Ferris wheel scene,
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah,
that's
yeah, let's do that.
that's the one. So when we had the 900C in filmmaker mode, guys, when we got to that, you'll see it. It's the Ferris wheel scene on Spears and Munsell. It's in the dark, and then the water shows the reflections, and
Hmm.
above or just below the Ferris wheel, there's a white haze, and the blooming was atrocious on the 900C in that one scene. So I want to see if the
But that now, so
QN95.
did you figure out if that was broken? Was it a bad
Uh,
panel?
I don't know. I mean, it just seems like that one preset was broken. So I'm gonna try and go back and see how it does against the Z9K. The Q900B didn't have the issue, so
All right. Ah, the Ferris wheel scene. Everyone loves
I
the
mean,
Ferris wheel.
900C doesn't have a matte screen. It's got their anti-reflective screen, so it's
I'm
not
going to put it on
quite glossy.
2000 nit content so they can max out their brightness without overdoing it.
Yeah,
Okay, so let me fast forward it just a bit.
I think it's 3/4.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Everybody call out the squirrel. Squirrel fever.
Woo! Yes, it's
Squirrel.
overexposed. I'm going to have to, because I'm getting
That
it ready for the Ferris wheel scene. But you guys
dude,
can
the
see how
fun.
bright the mini LED is. And it's in active tone mapping mode, by the way. So I'll turn it down to static when we get to the Ferris wheel scene. Almost there.
Dude, if you told me we were
And
looking at
here
so
we
many
are.
animals and nature, jeez, National Geographic
Hey,
Channel.
Brian, here's a super chat, $2. Oh, here we are. Pause.
On Corey, I'm just drinking water. There's no more drinking on live streams. Talk to
Yeah,
KGMX about
Brian's
that.
been banned from drinking on live stream, right?
I get too fired up. I want to fight in the comments. Shout out, hashtag, don't drink on live streams.
Okay, so let's do this one in slow-mo so you guys can see what's happening. And then I'll put it back in static for you guys. But it
So
looks great, by the way.
it does, yeah.
The
Because in
Q95C. Okay, so assuming the dimming zone is not broken, the 900C, the
thank you, Corey.
95C looks really good. On the U8H, there's all that black crushing happening above the rooftop. And let me turn up the exposure so you guys can see what I'm talking about.
So everybody in the chat. So in this scene, they're supposed to be haloing just above the buildings. That's supposed to be there. U8H, it's almost completely gone. So on regular mode, U8H crushes it, but the blooming on the 900C was everywhere from what was on the Ferris wheel, if you remember
Yeah.
too. So here it's supposed to like that highlighting area. Yeah, so it looks like the filmmaker, and this is in filmmaker.
This is a filmmaker, and it's an active.
Okay.
Let me take it down to static.
Because you remember the
I'm
statics didn't help
I
the
am so
what's the
impressed because there was blooming on the 90B last year in this scene. And this is
What's
an
the
active, and there's no blooming. So I'm really impressed.
Oh, I never even asked this. What's the local dimming settings that we're on?
High, always.
Okay. And what's the local dimming setting for U8H? What's their
High,
lingo for that?
high,
Hi. Okay.
also. So the last year, the U8H beat the 90B, and it's in this scene with both the black levels and the blooming. And now the 95C with 1344 dimming zones has caught up and did it better. It has all the shadow detail that's crushed on the U8H. So it matches the U8H in brightness and color and blooming control and shadow detail. The compromises are significantly less. I'm very impressed.
So everything we saw on the 900C and this scene, you don't see any of that.
No, this is way
Okay.
better.
Okay.
Way better. Yeah, I
So
mean,
I'll
look
have
at
to
it.
follow.
It's
I'll
so
follow up
similar
on
to
it.
the OLED. Look how close they are. There is a touch of blooming between the spokes of the Ferris wheel. You know how hard it is to get it even that close? I'm
Yeah.
just amazed. Yeah,
So
what?
I'll definitely follow up on the 900C. Oh Christ.
And again, the U8H is being compared to a TV that right now costs like $2,600.
Yeah.
So this
It's
is just
awesome.
something that I have to. The TCL and Hisense people, they've caught up. I mean, this is just so close. We're not talking a few $100s less. We're talking less than half the price. So I can only imagine how the U8K is going to be. I hope it's as good. They may take a step back, probably now.
Why do you say that? Because of mini LED?
No, because you never know. Like the U9G took a step back
Oh,
from
that's right.
the year
Yep.
before, so it's not always a guarantee. And Samsung's done that, right? The 90T was a step back. I thought because it had a significantly less dimming zones. It had like 90 dimming. I mean, it was like what 100
Yeah,
dimming zones? What is this, right? So you never know what happens. I think Hisense wants to make this TV, the U8K, awesome. So I would be surprised if it's a step back, but yeah. John
so
says that the U8H has a little bit more blooming. Yep. But then the U8H has a little bit more of that. Okay, that's not necessarily blooming. That's actually shadow detail that's on the OLED. That's not on the U8H. So let me turn up the exposure so you can see. So above the rooftop, there's a little bit of that, I guess, light. So there's no TV's perfect, I guess, is the way to say it. But the U8H, without a doubt, this is why it was my editor's choice last year. It's still, I'm looking at it like, wow, I still have to continue recommending it. It's just not for gaming.
5 years later. Ah, come
5
on,
years
you got
later,
that.
I'm still recommending it. Hey, Classy, you missed Samsung not allowing me to update my firmware. That's what you missed. Let me see if
They
they'll.
throttled it. Dias, why come what's up with your 900? Is it Dias? I wish my
Wait, there's a
900C.
bias? Who's
Dias,
biased?
D Dias. We're all biased. Ah, never mind. Thank you so much. Love that you love the channel. Love that you're there. But Dias. I wish my 900C looked like this in FMM. What the filmmaker mode? So Dias, are you seeing that in filmmaker mode on the 900C? Are you seeing a lot of banding? Banding. I'm sorry, blooming. Oh yeah, the update now.
We'll see. If it doesn't let me update, we'll just wrap up. It's interesting. They wouldn't let me update, but they allowed me to update earlier with all the checkboxes. I go, oh, you know what? I'll update live and come back and it's no longer there. It says, nope. But the 95C is recommended. It's just for the price of the U8H is right now, it's so hard to make that recommendation unless you really need that 95C brightness settings and everything. But for just mainstream watching of YouTube, Netflix, yeah, see, they won't let me update it. Oh well, sorry
I'm
guys.
telling you, there is a dude chilling on the Switch right now, just toggling it off. Oh, so Daya said dimming like crazy in filmmaker mode unless CE is engaged, which is why it didn't bloom when you were testing the S95C and the G3 2 weekends ago.
What is
Okay.
CE?
CE is contrast enhancer.
Oh, yeah, contrast enhancer screws up the color and the luminance stuff. I mean,
Oh,
for
and
like
dynamic mode.
absolute.
Dynamic mode. Okay.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I love contrast enhancer in low. I think high, it's just too much. But in a bright room, contrast enhancer on low with dynamic tone mapping in filmmaker mode matches the G3 and Cinema Home with dynamic tone mapping. Literally, those two are designed to be very similar in those two. Uh, no more
See, in
drinking
this,
on live stream, unsubscribe. Brian, we lost a
dude, blame KG, bro. Bring KG and Max. I was in there getting all fired up. I was ready to start fighting people. I was like, let's do it. Now I'm just drinking out of my LG cup because apparently I work
All
for them
right.
now.
Oh, you know, the new Sony. Let's talk about expectations on the new Sony. We'll talk mini LED, right? Because we know
They're going to dominate
A95L.
everything.
A95L is everyone's unicorn, but what's the deal with not having a 65-inch X95L? Did Rob ever share with you why it's limited to 85-inch? Because my understanding is the 65 and 75 are available in Japan. And you know, the Japanese don't buy 65 and 75-inch TVs. They're like, we want a 48-inch TV or a 55, right? So
Yeah.
is there not enough TVs to go around? What's the deal? Because it's just too bad.
So why they're my accusation on the stream was I think they're finding a way to basically sell a 4K Z9K is the way I would say the X95 L is going to be. It's basically just probably the exact same panel without the resolution, and a way for them to fill that gap a little bit and know that people don't have a lot of use for 8K. And I think the whole thing with Europe and the power draw, I think they're trying to position that as the premium. I don't like that the X93 is basically a carryover because it gets none of the additions that even the X90L is going to have.
Mm-hmm.
So that clear upscaling technology, they're not going to have that on the X93. So the X93 is going to be almost a complete carryover of last year's X95.
Yeah.
So I think that one's going to be dead in the water. And I'm not even sure if it's going to get the gaming bar. I'm not sure they're even going to have that. So
Mm.
the X93L will be the one to watch, and the X90L looks to be a big increase, but they say
Well,
that every year.
that mean the X93L is really the X95K. You mean the X95L,
Yes,
80-inch. Yeah.
X9, yeah, the X95L will be a 4K Z9K as far as I'm concerned.
And KG wants you to know that you're invited to
No, hell no.
11 a.m. tomorrow.
I got a better chance of getting
Bring your
pregnant.
own iced tea, Brian.
Nah, but you don't want me on there.
Hey, KG, I'll be here. I might be able to
You
jump
need
on.
me on that wall. You want me on
I
that
have
wall.
to do my thing and shoot my videos tomorrow, so I'll be in the studio. So yeah, I'll try to jump on for a few. Absolutely.
Come on, you trying to bait me. He knows I was in like Fight Club. Send me location. Come on.
Yep.
I'm just
So
worried about the
what's
X9 being
happening
so
this week before we wrap up? Let's tell everyone. This week, I know, are you back from vacation? Are you shooting content? Are you going on a
yeah.
hiatus? What's happening on your channel?
I released content all week while I was away. I did C3. I did C3 versus G3. I'll get back up to Value Electronics. I want to put the Z9K against the S95C because I think it's still going to do well. So, a lot of stuff. I mean, whatever TVs are out. So it's just got to keep feeding the beast. And I got to start doing, I think, tech therapy videos on Tuesday. Do those every Tuesday.
Do you know if
And
Robert's getting the S90C at Value Electronics for you to look at?
I imagine it'll be there at some point, but I don't think it's a priority because I know when it
Yeah.
comes to Samsung, he's kind of doesn't have any of that early access that he does with the other manufacturers. So I imagine if there is one, the thing is, I think when things come to Robert, unless there's going to be a lot of them, I don't want to open one because I don't want to take one from a customer. So I think the S90 we can kind of get a feel for what it is now. It's probably a
And
little bit, more
yeah.
value.
Oh no, I agree. And here's a super chat from Giddy, G-Man, thank you for that. Do you think Hisense and TCL price will go up the next 5 years? It's going up this year, my friend. I just saw the
I can
European
answer that.
pricing for the C8 series, C8 something. It's $1,800. Well, it's 1,800 euros, but that's close enough to $1,600 to $1,800 in the US. And it's a 65-inch. And I'm thinking, wait, this is not even their flagship. The QM8 is going to come out here, probably priced similarly. This is the first time I've seen a 65-inch TCL priced so much. This is basically priced at the same level as a QN95C. Now, the QN85C has significantly less dimming zones. We expect the QM8 to have probably close to 1,000 dimming zones around there, not quite 1344 of the QN95C, but still, that's a pricey TCL. So yeah, the prices are going up. As far as their flagship, Hisense is going to be less expensive than that, but over 1,000. Whereas the U8H was at 1,000. I think it's going to be close to maybe 14, 1,500. It'll have about 500 dimming zones, I think, 5 to 600. So you have a little bit more dimming zones with TCL. You have a little bit less with the Hisense, and you will have twice as many with the QN95C. They're becoming less and less of a quote-unquote value, but it's still less expensive than the flagship Q95C, so it still would be recommended. If it performs close enough for $600 less, that's still a significant savings. But definitely it is
Yeah.
going up, G-Man, because they're trying to fight with the best. And that means you're going to have the best hardware. In this case, a lot of dimming zones, and that's not cheap.
Well, and we said this when we talked to TCL and Hisense, but with TCL especially, was they really have this hang up where they don't want to be considered a value brand. My retort was then get your TVs off the floor at Costco and especially Hisense. You walk in, the cheapest ones are there lined up next to the open box at Best Buy. Get yourself some kiosks and spend the money on a pad and start showing them in store because this word of mouth crap with TCL and Hisense, you need to have TVs in store so people
And
can
that's
actually
another
see
thing.
this.
I was at Best Buy and I saw the Hisense on display, but it wasn't the U8H. It was like a U6. I'm like, this is not
Yeah,
even your best
exactly.
one. I mean, I look at like, yeah, because I know they're going for value. Oh my gosh, it's only $500, and look how great it looks. But
Yeah,
if you have it close to a QN90C or 95C and have a U8K out there, people go, what? And maybe that's why they just walk off with a Hisense.
yeah. Well, and I think, but I guess Vizio battled this, and they actually almost overcame it before they disappeared. Was that brand prejudice of being a value brand? Remember, Samsung was a value brand. LG was a value brand. They've all been crap brands that eventually reached the top. Vizio just is off the map right now, but to really get there, you have to have some advertising. I mean, Jesus, put them so people know what they are. I
So
mean, FOMO was responsible for even having Hisense known 4 or 5 years ago. You're the only
before
guy
I
talking about them.
before I go, I'm going to put it in the bright accurate mode, cinema home with dynamic tone mapping on, so that people can see how it goes against, there we go. Okay, all dynamic contrast, that's better. Okay, so this is accurate bright mode, which would be a match for the Q95C in active. I'll turn, oops, wrong one. Here we go.
Make sure that eco's off. Don't have any issues with that.
Nope, it's off. I double checked.
You'll be in the forums throwing bombs.
And FOMO is setting him up to
Two
fail.
2 hours in the eco mode. Come on. Let's see.
Okay, so
What's up, Terry? Terry has a Z9K. He was happy as hell they carried it over, right, Terry? He had his fingers crossed when Rob was announcing the lineup. He's like, Z9K, one more year.
yeah, and then so let's watch movies in this dynamic tone, in this brighter home mode.
I like how the TVs are all bigger than you.
So dynamic tone mapping is on. Cinema with low contrast enhancer. This brings it into a brightness match with the mini LEDs. Although, who knows what color will be like, but who cares, I guess, is the way to respond to that, because if you're in a bright room, it really doesn't matter. So let's see what happens. Actually, Brian, when you're at home watching movies, what movie mode and settings do you have on your Sony?
The Sony actually staying standard a lot of the time.
There you go.
I mean, the Sony I do because Sony just has that set it and forget it. I mean, I'll go into movie or cinema, but I like standard for Sony. It doesn't really ever look bad. The LG, I do feel I need to change per the movie. Let's see.
Okay, so in this super bright scene, I think they all look pretty good. I just put it on pause, and you can see they all have their specular highlights. U8H is still a touch brighter, and it's in Filmmaker, no contrast enhancements on or anything like that. It's just U8H is that bright, but you lose a lot of the subtle details. As you can see, they brute force their way into it, but you get the brightness, and in a scene like this, who cares, right? You want that bright impact. Black levels.
It's funny, the U8H right there, though, it was interesting. It had like, it totally looked different.
On the S95C, contrast enhancer is on. The QN95C, I believe it's off. Let me see. I think it's off. Yeah. I can take it. Let's see. Active. Yeah, contrast enhancer is off on the 95C. S95C, though, it is on because I think you need that. It needs the extra push to match up with the G3 in Cinema Home with dynamic tone mapping on. What the heck was that? I don't know what I did.
Have you ever even seen The Greatest Showman?
Yeah, I actually saw it once, the entire movie. I don't know what's happening. Let's try this again. But I think for most people, though, unless you're in a dark room, I highly recommend active in a bright room. And this is for the S95C with contrast enhancer set to low, because that really makes it bright enough for any room without having
Well,
to.
one thing we haven't discussed is the trajectory of price, because last year's QN95B dropped off a cliff in price. Do you think, FOMO, the G3 has been out for only a couple weeks to everybody? What do you think that the price trajectory is going to be? Do you think S95C holds its value this year? Are they going to drop it? Do you think the QN90, like, so that's going to be a part of, we talk about value.
Black Friday. So you're saying Black Friday prices. You mean whether the S95C and G3 will continue to track the same prices?
Yeah.
I think
Because that'll,
well, you've seen it. It's always more aggressively discounted, right? Samsung flagships.
yeah.
So by a few hundred, it won't be huge, but I'd say by the end of the year, S95C might be $200 cheaper, which makes the G3 a difficult sell because you still have to spend an extra $100 or more on a stand if you need a stand. And 65-inch, 55 and 65, most people need a stand. They're going to get a stand for that. And that's just another purchase that, you have to deal with. So it ends up being a few $100 more because of that stand. Oh, I just love this part. Well, I thought I paused it. I'll pause it next time.
I wonder when they make these movies, they're like, Jesus, Loki's saying you're nerfing it because he's always.
I'm nerfing.
What do you? All right, seriously, put the QN95 in standard with active and CE on low.
All
apples to apples. All right, man, do it. You
right.
ain't got to come at. You got to come at me like that, bruh.
Okay, so standard.
Always attacking. Always attacking. Throw a please in there.
Standard and a what?
Blue.
Standard and a what?
All right, let me see Loki.
Standard.
By the way, throw a please in there once in the blue. Seriously, put the Q95C in standard with active and CE on low, apples to apples with the S95C. It's in filmmaker mode now. You're welcome.
Yep. So now it's in standard, low, right? And picture mode is standard. Let me turn up the exposure a little bit, give you guys a bit more detail. The S95C is still brighter, just so you guys know. The S95C is filmmaker mode, CE on low, active, and it's a touch brighter.
In filmmaker mode?
Yes, it's in filmmaker mode. Okay, let me double check. Let's see.
Don't nerf it, FOMO.
Here we go. Filmmaker mode. And contrast is down to 42, by the way, because I want a little bit of the extra detail. If I brought it up to 48, it'd be even like crazier. But around 42, I get my contrast that I want. All right, so contrast enhancer on low, HDR tone mapping on active, and even shadow detail down -2. And that's it. Okay. See? Pretty good. And remember, guys, this is a movie, so it's graded to a certain brightness. It only needs to get as bright as the movie wants it to get.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't artificially make it brighter, but and the U8H has nothing. It's just filmmaker mode, straight up HDR.
So
And the
tech with
G3 is good.
KG,
Cinema Home.
KG saying try expression enhancer on the G3 now.
All right.
Damn, we're just taking hits right now. You're like, yo, do a
Hey,
cartwheel and then a
everybody wants
backhand
their,
spring.
their TV to look good, you know? Can't
Yeah,
blame
they're like, yeah. Put mine in vivid. Put yours in filmmaker.
Right. Auto
Don't do
dynamic
these swans.
contrast on low, tone mapping, expression detail. He wants expression on bright.
Yeah.
That doesn't change much. It just raises the midtones, but that makes it worse. It's more washed out. The specular highlights do not go up. And then if you turn it off, yeah, I'd leave it on detail. So there you go, right? And okay, so these are your brightest settings with some color accuracy there. Oh, not bad.
Loki, apples to apples from the same manufacturer. You should have them in the same settings. No,
No,
would that not
different
be apples to
technologies.
apples?
Well, okay, so first of all, they do look very similar. As a matter of fact, this is a great scene. The S95C, it's actually, I like the specular highlights on the Q95C a little bit better. It's actually even sharper. I don't know if it's crushing the details or not, but it's definitely different. So let me turn down the exposure a bit so you guys can see that.
All right. So now Loki's saying make sure it's in standard.
Yes, it's in standard. Yeah,
Can you
here,
prove it?
I'll
Just
double,
prove it to
double
him
check.
before we end up in the forums with so I end up being like,
Yes,
it's in
it's
eco mode.
standard right there, standard, and no eco mode is off, as you can see.
Let me see. Let me
Contrast
see.
50, standard, CE
Got
at
that.
low, active. Let's see, color tone is standard. Maybe I should make it to warm 2. There we go. So it's a warm 2 now. Actually, color space should be set to auto.
You got to do the whole thing
Really
over.
doesn't change much, but
All right, we're stepping out. We're gonna rerun it.
all right. So it's interesting. Both mini LEDs and the G3 actually it's sharper. The S95C is softer. You guys see that? Why is the
We saw
S95
it.
sharper? What's the deal?
We saw it softer in game mode too, in a couple
Yeah,
scenes.
it's wrong one. So the S95C guys is a touch softer. The sparks, I'm talking about the sparks specifically. So let me see. Let me try this contrast. Oh, that just makes it worse. Yeah, you got to break it down to 43. So this is interesting. Let me see if I take it to static. Oh yeah, so it was active. Active screwed it up. So by putting it in active, the active mode of the S95C is worse than the active mode of the Q95C. Look what we discovered, guys. So when you put the Q95C in active, it preserves the specular highlight. It doesn't kind of bloom it out too much. The halo isn't there on the S95C. There's a haloing effect with the active. So once again, it shows the processing on the Q95C is a step above the S95C. That would be my conclusion, because the way it's doing active is more accurate than the way the S95C is doing active. And it looks very similar to the U8H, which has no enhancements on, and the G3, which is in cinema home, dynamic tone mapping, detail, enhancer detail. And yeah, so if you put the S95C on active and it looks soft, take it to static. If it looks soft, that is why. Ah, there we go. We learned something.
Loki says vindicated.
Good job, Loki. Good job.
Nice job, man. Grab a camera. Do your thing.
Q95C wins this one on the Q95C is a better active algorithm. I will give them that. Excellent.
Okay. So active is a must on QN95C. Gotcha.
Yes. Yeah. It's very well done without glowing issues. So yeah. Here, let's vindicate Loki right here. Q95C slaps here. Yeah, let me turn up the exposure so we can actually see the slapping happening.
Yeah, slap it. Slap it.
And you guys know also that settings is everything, right? I think between Brian, myself, and all the other reviewers, it's all about settings. Every TV has a different setting. It's not apples to apples settings, as you guys saw. One Samsung's active is not another Samsung's active. You really have to cater to that TV's technology. And even between neoqleds, an ADS panel is going to respond differently to active than a mini LED with VA panel like this one, right? So, we'll have to see. Oh my God.
So he said, not in this scene, it's worse. So in the end, what you need to do is
Ooh,
per scene change your setting.
definitely.
Like, how long was the movie? 15 hours. I had to change per scene.
There we go. It's only long enough so I don't get hit with copyright, right? There we go. Yeah, still looks good. Still looks super bright. But so the Q95C for Samsung fans who don't want to go OLED, I have no problems recommending the Q95C as a flagship equivalent. None at all. I did a little bit of the Halo Infinity Infinite without 4K 120 VRR. I wasn't testing that. I just wanted to see the image quality in 4K 60 through a splitter, and I thought it looked phenomenal. Local dimming was still working well. I think the issue is always with 4K 120 VRR. So that's something that I'll let better people do than me, because you really need a special splitter to do it properly.
And Keanu's got to edge up that beard, man. Jesus.
Yeah, the Q95C is such a good TV. I would take that over the 900C all day long. I don't even know why people would pay extra for the 900C. That 8K is just not bringing anything to the table. Because the 95C is more of a match for the S95C than the 900C was. Wait, is Leo here? I don't want him yelling at me.
What's up, Paulie? Who was it?
Oh, wait. Tech, KG got hit with a copyright from a 2-second clip.
Was it Warner Brothers? Was it? What'd you have? Tell me the movie.
Yeah, what clip was it? I don't want to
Dude,
be.
I've been hit for a static. I think Hobbit got me for just static images in the background.
Wait, the Hobbit got you? It was Jackson. Jackson got you.
Yeah, I don't even mess with it. That's why it's all nature, baby.
Hey, should we do Jennifer Gala? I have her.
I like how Brandon just runs with it and hopes for the best. He's like, hey, if they get me, they get me. What's up, Paulie? Paulie's in the chat. What's up, Paulie? Paulie, I'll see you in Modern Warfare in 20 minutes. Anybody want to play Modern Warfare? 2? Why no Z9K? I don't think FOMO's going to buy a Z9K at this point.
No, it's just too big. 85 inches.
But I will put it, Dennis, check me out, because I'm going to put the S95C.
Okay, Brian, so here's a challenge. It's called the Dark Knight Challenge. The first one to put a 2-second clip of the Dark Knight and not get a copyright strike wins. So, yeah, KG got the copyright strike. Are you willing to risk it, Brian?
Hell no, bro. I've been doing this longer than you guys. I've seen videos hit 30, 40,000, and then they're like, oh, sorry, we're taking it. So I won't go through that whole, I'm not putting movies on mine. No way.
Yeah.
No way.
Oh,
it's just not worth it, guys. It's not.
It isn't. Let me run some of Jennifer Gala stuff real quick.
Get some Gala in the house.
YouTube love.
Yeah, Paulie, what's up? Paulie's in the house. Dear Paul. Let's see. Dennis, what's up? KG. Damn, KG, that's terrible. Let's see. Dude, we gotta go back to StreamYard. Loki, just throw that please in there, bro. This dude just, do this, do that. Come on. Forget your manners, baby. Like, hey, FOMO, please rock this. All you content creators know what I mean in the comments sometimes. Just do this, do that. Once in a while, could you please would be great. Just saying. Taking it to the street. Loki, don't say sorry. Say please. That's all. Just say please.
All right. Nothing like a little YouTube action.
Jennifer Gala. What the hell is this? You ain't got that YouTube premium, baby?
No, it's just YouTube.
You ain't got that premium?
I'm not so cool. Oh, well, yeah. Well, I have premium. I just don't have YouTube TV. I only do it during college football season. And then
Loki, I'm just messing with you, Loki. Don't worry. No
There we
worries.
go.
Stop the FOMO. Can you try out the anti-reflection coating for rainbows? I'll throw in a please for Brian. Thank you. Thank you.
Ah, there we go. The
It's a
rainbow. All
Sesame.
right,
It's Sesame Street 101.
let's do the rainbow. Let me turn off the TV real quick. Hey, is this not working? What's happening here?
I don't know. I'm like 3 seconds behind.
Okay, here we go. Let's try. Let's try this again. 8K.
Do we have any Do we have any boxing fans in the house? Who do you guys have tonight? If you have any boxing fans, you got Garcia or do you have Tank Davis?
All right. Let me pause this. And let's see. Let me see if we see a rainbow. All right. Brian, tell me if you see a rainbow.
No, not through my C1 through YouTube.
I don't see a rainbow. I'll get a brighter light. This is ridiculous. This is not happening here. My iPhone is not cutting it, but this will work. Right here.
What, use that light you brought to Value Electronics. That beam. Is that the one you're gonna break out?
Here we go. See this one? Right here?
Yeah.
And the rainbow is better. So the U8H and then compared, so it definitely has a little bit of the rainbow compared to the S95C. And the U8H has it the worst. Yeah.
So yeah, S95C definitely has better shadow detail on the light. Dennis, you got Garcia? Okay, all right. Oh, we got a bunch of Garcia Tank
coating, actually.
So
I think you guys have to bring it home to your room. I mean, it's not apple to apples quite, but
I got one Tank and I got two Garcias. Okay, you guys thinking decision or knockout?
we turned up a little bit more here.
How did the QD OLEDs do with that? The S95C. Oh, Garcia, high def news getting in the fight game, baby. Let's see, Garcia. Okay, you guys are going with the Instagram fighter. I got you. All right. We'll see if he's for real. I keeps it real. I love that Chappelle skit. I keeps it real.
You know, it feels like it's a matte coating.
Damn, FOMO. Yeah, some cable management on the floor, bro. Oh my god.
Dude, you should have seen it before my cable management, man.
Oh my god. The shadow detail on your floor.
Oh. So hopefully that answers the rainbow effect. The answer is the rainbow is not as bad as it was before, but I felt that S95C has better reflection. Hey, thank you, Lee Zab, for showing up. We're going to head out soon ourselves. Any other questions before we go? Yes, it looks like it still scatters a little bit, but I tell everyone, do not trust reflection tests from reviewers because your room is completely different. Whatever conclusions we have in our room does not necessarily apply to yours. So it's so hard to do these kind of reflection anti-glare tests. I'm afraid to make recommendations because so many times I love how the QN90R has an anti-reflective coating, but it has huge rainbows for other people. And I don't have it because my lights behind me are at the perfect angle. So if you're on the wrong angle, you're gonna have huge rainbow issues on your TV. So why is the sky blue? Is this a scientific question?
Look, well, it's really
or is it
oxygen
asking
level.
the TV, why is the TV sky blue? How do we know the nearest TV from the reference? Oh, what a great question. We don't. So
let me hit up Jennifer and ask her what she was trying to do here.
Yeah, she's a creator. So the A95K is technically my reference TV, but it's not here right now. It's on the side. I didn't have time to put it underneath because it's floating on its stand. But the A95K is my reference. Even then, the A95K has issues with saturation at low luminance in certain color tones, right? Only a true reference TV can tell you what it's supposed to be, like a BVM that's properly calibrated and so forth. And even then, it's only good up to 1,000 nits. Above 1,000 nits, it clips, it hard clips. So you don't know what it is above 1,000 nits. You have to wait for the creator to tell you what he used and what he expects to see. And if he's using the new 4,000 nit Sony that's coming out in November, then he'll be able to definitively say, hey, that matches my content. Otherwise, you really don't know. Is it an AUO or CSOT? I'm going to send the label to, oh, look at that. Let me pause here. It's interesting. Oh, let's go back. Okay, so we need to ask Jennifer Gala is this supposed to be black like the U8H? Probably not. And this is what we're talking about. U8H wants to get rid of blooming. You see how it's crushing that detail? Now, if you didn't see the other TVs, you'd go, wow, that's really pleasant. That's a superior TV, right? But then seeing the G3 and the S95C having the same level of that lifted black, this is not a lifted black problem. This is what you're supposed to see. But the U8H actually crushed that because it thinks it's noise, right? So this is something to think about, because when three of the TVs look so similar and they're both high-end TVs, my assumption would be that the U8H is actually crushing this, but then we don't know unless Jennifer Gala is here to answer this question. But what are you
She
guys
is
thinking?
not.
You guys think it's crushed blacks, or should it be lifted like that in this scene? Let me turn up the camera so you guys see what I'm talking about. All right, see, I'm hyper exposing it, and you can see in the scene there's a lot of shadow detail. But this is what we're talking about, right? All right, John, quick summary of the TV you would get. So for $1,000, there is no doubt I would get the U8H, because these other TVs are great, but how much do they cost? The 65-inch S95C and the QN95C are the same price at around $2,600, and that's pretty expensive. I expect performance from them, and I would get the QN95C in a room that needs that brightness. It's that good. But since I don't watch in a super bright room, I would get the S95C for what I need it to do, which is I really enjoy luminance, the extra color luminance I get, and I know it's there. But the G3, if I was watching mostly sports, let's say it's my bar TV where I'm watching news, streaming, and sports, I would get the G3 because it does all of that a little bit better. I like vivid mode on the G3 better than dynamic mode on the S95C, and on the S95C standard mode, although the colors are better, it just cannot get as bright as the G3, even if you do all the enhancements. So the G3, I think, is the ultimate everyday sports watching TV in SDR. It works really well. But for gaming though, if I had to throw that in, I take the S95C. I think that is an amazing gaming TV with everything else taken into consideration. But for $1,000, the U8H holds its own. Brian?
I
Summary,
mean,
what
same
TV would you get?
same thing. Is LEDs are just in a tough spot, as in some cases they're more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
For a while there, they had the advantage because they were brighter and they were cheaper and larger. Now that they're the same size, it's just hard to recommend them because the micro contrast on the OLEDs just beats them every time, especially the QD OLED. So I like the QN95C. Everything I've seen from it is impressive. I just wish it was much brighter than the S95C. Like I want it to be noticeable. I'll even take some blooming if that brightness was noticeable. But the only way I go for um, the QN95 is because I need an 85. But because they're the same price, that's why I asked about the pricing tracking. It's just hard to recommend when they're the same price. So I'd have to go with the OLEDs. I mean, especially the S95C.
Yep, looks like the S95C is the one that most people are choosing. All right,
Yeah,
okay.
it's just hard. I mean, second generation QD OLED. I mean,
It
they
is.
really did a great job with it. And I mean, and last year, I think what's cool about it is last year they surprised everybody with the S95B. The question we're all going to have is, will they leave the S95C alone to see how it does when the A95L comes out? And I have a
No,
feeling the A95L is going to be a lot brighter. I think they're going to push the brightness on it.
yeah. You know, what's interesting is the 95C is very aggressive with its subtitle dimming, because I notice when it thinks it's a subtitle, it dims it down, which I like because it's not as distracting. And then when it sees content, it jumps back in and raises it, because if you look at the beginning of this video, um,
So, so
you
right
see
here,
it,
FOMO, can you stop on this star field?
this one?
Where was it with the car floating? Yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
typically with the 900 series, what you'll see is that when that car pans, the whole screen will dim to keep the blooming at bay, and it didn't look like it was doing
Oh
that. You see how
no,
it's gray?
no, this
Yeah,
is,
right
look how
there.
bright it is. Yeah. Well, let me make
So
sure.
it,
Let's see if the what the setting is in this one real quick. Filmmaker mode on S95C, and this is, oh yeah, standard mode. That's why it's a little bit brighter. It's in standard mode. But everything is made brighter, by the way. They all have their enhancements on.
but I
And
guess
you,
my thing is, are you seeing that like flattening out in order to make the blooming
no,
minimalist?
nope.
Okay, so it's
This is,
still so the stars still sparkle in person.
oh yeah.
Because the
Actually,
900B they didn't sparkle at all.
there are more stars on the 95C than on the other TVs. I think they're making up stars.
It's got the
Like,
star enhancer on.
seriously, like, wait,
It does look like a lot more.
it definitely has more stars than the U8H, which is no surprise. But why does it have more stars than the OLEDs? So this is
But
kind
if
of
you
cool.
but on the G3, it looks like the stars are they have a
Right.
higher sparkle
It's the
than even the
DTM.
S9.
Remember on the G3, I put it on
Oh,
Cinema Home, dynamic
oh,
tone
okay.
mapping, expression enhancer, and on the S95C, it's filmmaker active. Oh wait, active is off. Remember, because it causes too much of a halo. But let's put it on standard, and so the S95C is on a similar, dynamic standard. All right. Oh yeah, now it's super bright in standard mode. So it kind of gives them all the same chance. Okay, see the stars appear in standard mode. These are all great TVs, by the way. I mean, we're really picking at the bones here.
That's what we always do.
Oh, we always do. The contrast enhancer is crushing the S95C. Now, do I
But see
get
now
rid?
the S95C has that sparkle that it was missing,
Yeah, let's
and
check what my enhancements are.
it's got more sparkle than the QN95. Like
I'll keep it
the
as standard
specular
just for
highlights.
the, I'm going to take it down. So contrast, my recommendation is to take it below 50 because it's just not, oh, what is it? Oh, contrast enhancer, there we go. There we go. All right. So it's in standard mode, contrast enhancer is off, but it's on active. Hey, you know what? Creator's intent. We're the creator here, right? It's our TV, so we want it to look the way we want it. You can make it look any way you want, by the way.
Oh, don't
The
say that. Don't say that. You'll be in the forums.
No, Jennifer Gallo's gonna come after me. What I love is that the black car. Look at that. It's. But I have to say the black on the UH is pretty good, but the Q95C does have enhancements on, so I'll take off the enhancements so people don't complain. I'm setting it up for failure. All right, standard mode. I'll keep it on standard, but let's take off the contrast enhancer because this is a very difficult one. Local dimming, high. So I'm like,
So
what do you
Cor-
think? Local dimming is
so
off.
Corey's got a great request, and it was with a please, FOMO. If you can just go ahead and count the stars on each and let us know which one has the most.
I lost count at 88.
Corey,
He said it
you
with a
put
please.
please. Oh, man. Quack foo. I never understand the creator's intent. I wanted to look. No, I hear you.
Now I'm going to pause it here, and I'm going to turn up the exposure so you guys can see which one wins the blooming control competition.
Which one of her demos is this, FOMO? What's the title of this one?
All right. So let's see here. Let me make sure I'm not setting up the Q95C for failure. Let me put it on filmmaker mode because that's what the U8H is on. There we
What's the
go.
title of this, FOMO? What's the title of this demo?
It's the 8K one.
Oh, they're all
And
8K.
that 46.
All hers are like 8K. Is
And
it a new one?
local dimming is on high. Contrast enhancer is off. Let's put on static. Okay, this is its most accurate mode, just like the U8H, and boom, it's as black as an OLED TV in its most accurate mode. So,
Wow.
excellent. I mean, you cannot ask for anything more. This is just amazing.
Look at the loss of detail in the G3 though.
Oh, well, the G3
Underneath.
is in Cinema Home. Okay, okay. So for G3 fans, I don't want to be accused of setting it up for failure now. Ah, it's on Cinema
Why are you
Home.
trying? Why are you trying to gimp it, bro?
I know,
I can't.
right?
What's the name of this demo though? I gotta find it. It's not. It's not
Oh,
8K. It's what is it?
it's 8K. It's actually called 8K.
Really? Come on, Jen. Didn't have titles, baby.
Yep. All the enhancements are off. There you go. So looks just like the S95C in terms of brightness equivalence, very similar. And the U8H is slightly lifted blacks, very slight. But the Q95C, so this is where we are, Brian. In today's best flagship mini LED with 1344 dimming zones, I would say the performance is very close to OLED. So this is pretty good.
Yep. The problem is it looks close to OLED. You're like, then why would I not just get an OLED? You're there.
Burning! It's burning. People are afraid of burning. That's
Yeah,
it. That's the only reason.
that's bullshit.
They are afraid of burning. It's the only reason for its existence is that fear. I mean, Samsung's the one that's been pushing the burn-in narrative, right? All right. Okay.
Very nice. All right.
Very nice.
Show me the title of
Yeah.
this demo though, real quick. Back out of
Oh
it.
yeah.
For a second.
Let me do it right here. It's called NASA 8K HDR, the space station.
Oh, that's a different. Guys, check out Jennifer and check out the super.
Yeah,
HDR
Jennifer
super
has some
channel.
amazing audio too. Look at all these ads I have to run through.
This is the 8K 4000 nits HDR.
No, this is the NASA. Here. It's 8K space station. 8K HDR, the space station, ISS, 4000 nits of love. Okay. Or maybe the one that comes after that. I think it comes after this. If you know what, I think it's the next one.
I got it.
You got it? Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, she's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, people are sick of the horses in the snow. Well, now you got this.
The horses and the cows. I'm like, come on.
Give the cow some love.
Yeah, give it to me. Let's see. All right, save that.
Okay.
Right, cool. All right, let's talk.
We're going to end with Jennifer Galla's amazing material here. Thank you, Jennifer, for letting us use your material and not giving us copyright strikes. And highly recommended, right? This is why she does it, is to help other creators. And, you know, she's got some popular videos, like 1 million views.
She's incredible.
She's great.
I mean, she is a filmmaker. I mean, she doesn't play around. She's pretty famous.
Absolutely. I'm hoping to get my Q95C review out probably by the end of next week. I mean, there's really nothing to review. It is, I know exactly where I'm going with it. I need to get the firmware update though, because I think it's great in 23, firmware 23. I'll update it, let you guys know if anything falls apart, but oftentimes the update affects gaming, and I'm not such a gaming enthusiast to the degree where I will notice the changes, the very subtle changes. So I'll report if local dimming is broken or not for regular content, but for gaming, you guys are gonna have to wait and see what happens there. So what else is happening?
Quick question, FOMO. What's these? I know that the Q90 always has a ton of sizes. What is the sizes available for the Q195? Do we know?
Everything from 55 up to 85.
Okay, there's so nothing, if we want that 5043, the Q90 has those still.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. Actually, I think KG has the 50.
The 50. Okay.
I think so. Or is it the 40 something? It was the one with the VA panel, the smaller one with the VA panel, I believe.
Oh, don't bring that up.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? Does the Q95C come in anything smaller than a... Actually, I think it's 65, 75, and 85. I don't think it comes in a 55.
Okay.
The 95C? Yeah. Yep. I mean, they're going away from the smaller sizes.
Yeah.
But, I mean, for the same price, though, I got to go with the OLED. I mean, like others have mentioned, if it was... Yeah. And it doesn't have a One Connect box, but the S95C does. And so I'm like, wait, you know, which is really the flagship now, right? So
well, and that kind of goes against what we've always said with, you know, with the Samsung positioning the QD OLED. It looks like they're actually finally positioning it where it belongs, as their flagship.
You know, Loki has 4K. A great point about Mini LED. People get it because it doesn't dim, right? You have certain bright scenes, so over time it dims, logo dimming, all these different things, ASBL. Do you have that? Do you have that issue? Do you see it as a problem? That's why you would get a mini LED?
Me personally, I mean, I use mine as a PC, but mine is I have a gaming PC. I would never use an OLED as a desktop. Of course, it's going to dim, but I don't find ABSL to be a problem at all. I'm not sensitive to it. Maybe back in the day, but not now. I don't. But then again, I see banding when other people don't. So, um, I would think that ABSL is not something I'm fully like. If you want something to force it to dim, yes. But I think what you're saying, using it as a desktop, of course it's going to dim. But no, I don't find the problem.
And I don't know, I think the 95C has a different processor. So processor question, I believe the 95C has a different processor, mostly because I see the differences in the 900C
Yeah,
and the 95C compared to the S95C, but maybe it isn't because maybe they're just not good at applying the processor
yeah.
to the S95C QLED technology, but you see it in the active mode. It's just not at all. See, this is a different one. This one,
And
Brian,
that
is called Best 8K HDR Demo. Where is Elon Musk?
is that what it says?
Yeah,
Oh,
where is
what?
Elon Musk after
Damn,
all
Jen.
these years? Or where is Elon Musk's Starman after 2 years? So throwing shade at Elon, Jennifer, gotta love it.
Jen, what the heck? All right, where is he?
So,
Here, I
all
gotta
right.
find that one
If you
though.
guys have any questions, just let me know in the comments below, and I'll try to investigate it. But more, I have to say, it just looks pretty good. The biggest issue I had with last year was lifted blacks and blooming control. They solved all of that. Specular highlights is still a challenge. I would still get OLED for specular highlights. But short of specular highlights, it addressed everything else that I had a problem with last year, including that less than subtle local dimming issues. And yeah, thank you for showing up, everyone. Let me see if there's any last minute questions. What do you think of the 98-inch Samsung Q80C for $10,000? It's 98 inches, it's 10,000. I'd wait for the TCL 98 inch to see if it's better. I believe it will be better. So let's wait for the other 98 inches coming from TCL this year. I think there's going to be one. I
Yeah,
think the QM8 will be 98 inches, and it's a mini LED as well. So, Christian, I would definitely wait.
yeah, and it's a tough call with like even that how expensive was that QN90A at 100 inches, and then to have
Yeah.
it be the oldest TV is just very hard to recommend at that point.
I always, okay, so whether the Q95C is ADS or not, I assumed it's ADS because Flat Panels HD listed them all as ADS. I reached out to Samsung. They said, we cannot share that with you. So actually, I did not confirm myself. I'm going to send the labels over to Classy for him to do some research. So maybe it is ADS. But Flat Panels is convinced it's VA. So they listed it as VA, and we've been told it's VA, but obviously
Yeah,
verify. So we'll verify. Uh, I don't know. I don't have the jeweler's thing. That's something that I'll let Classy and KG do because, in my opinion, if
yeah,
it's good, I don't care. It's only when it's bad that I go, okay, is this ADS? So if it's ADS, I strongly encourage all TV makers to use ADS because it's that good. And if it's VA, then I strongly encourage all TV makers to use VA. Whatever they're using, it's definitely improvement over last year. How about that? Because it's
I love
irrelevant if it's worse. Huh?
our technical analysis, our jeweler thing. I don't have the jeweler thing.
Yeah. Well, my technical analysis is if it's worse, let me know why. I blame ADS. If it's better,
Uh,
then you know what, ADS VA. But I can tell you that out of China, which is the leading LCD R&D centers right now, Korea's walked away from LCD as far as the best LCD panels from China are ADS. Just so you guys know, we must clear that up. If you were to walk in with a check, you're going to pay more for an ADS panel from BOE than you are for a VA panel. Just keep
yeah,
that in mind.
it's
That is
not
their
them
better
cheaping
technology.
out, but
They're
I
not
think it's
cheaping out.
that, and it's using IPS. We did say that was an LG kind of trademark. I mean, like it's its own thing.
Yeah.
So I mean,
And Class is saying the same thing. This many doing this, it looks great. What does it matter? And that's how it is. But as far as the Chinese are concerned, they're marking up the ADS like crazy because that's BOE's best panel.
yeah.
So, yeah. All right, everyone.
Like it.
Hey, thanks for showing up, everyone. And tomorrow, Brian, what are you doing? Just hanging out with the family?
Just chilling. Yeah, just chilling. I got some. I'll probably get down to the store Monday or Tuesday, see if I can get the Z9K against the S95C. Spend more time with the C3, see how the game modes are. Oh, Robert, at the very end.
Robert shows up.
Yeah.
Hey, Robert.
So
Oh, wait,
so he
wait.
says, I did not
Here's
get
the
back to
final
you
word.
earlier.
Let's get the final word. Robert has the final word here. I love it. Robert says, sorry, I did not get back to you earlier. From what I can tell, the QN95C is a VA panel with the new anti-glare and wide-angle enhancements. There you go.
Awesome. So
And
Robert, let me know when the 85 comes in and we'll come film it. So
yep.
so
Oh,
we'll
wait,
get down
look
there.
at this. Wait, let me shrink us. The stars are showing where the OLED is killing it. I don't see any stars on either of the LEDs.
Are they even on anymore?
It's like, what happened? There's no stars. They completely crushed the stars. This is a really good one. Okay, before we go, and this is why you get
Jesus.
OLED.
It's
I'm
not
serious.
even on.
This is why you get OLED is if you're watching stars on YouTube,
Wow.
this is what happens. There you go. There you go, folks. That's it. This is why
Wow.
this is why you get an
Oh, there's
OLED.
one. There's one. Oh my God! Look at the poor. Look at the Hisense. Oh, Robert's saying we're okay. So I'll see you the QN95 Tuesday. All right, Robert, I'll come down.
And is there a setting that could bring back the stars? Is there? But
Yes,
it has more. Let's see. Can I bring back the stars with some setting, something? Probably if I take local living to standard, maybe? No? Low? No? So let's keep it on high. How about active? Yes, active brings back 10 stars.
10.
Okay,
10.
this is it. This
Awesome.
is the conclusion. This is why we cannot get a mini LED. Because we like to watch stars, and this is what happens. But ultimately, you're not going to see this in most content. In most content you saw up to this point, they all looked
Yeah.
very similar. But then when you get to this, is when you start pulling your hair and going, oh, there's so much to go. I think this is a great way to end, guys. So
Very cool. Awesome.
if you guys are interested in seeing more stars, definitely get an OLED. Until next time, my friends, stop the FOMO.
Take care, guys.